Last week on Gleeboot, we voted on our favorite Tina lines and our favorite and least favorite songs and episodes, and we had a grand old time. And that's what you missed on Gleeboot.
Yeah, this week we'll be back to our more polished selves, fingers crossed.
We'll see.
Gleeboot.
This week, as you could probably guess from the title, we're talking about the Glee Project Season 2, and we brought on our Glee Project expert, Julia!
Yay! Glee Project! Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm Cullen.
And I'm Alyssa. My name is Alyssa.
But you're not Alyssa?
I cannot say I'm Alyssa because it sounds like
I'm
Melissa.
Yep, I know. I made a meme about it. I remember. I'm Hannah.
Yep. And we're on...
I said we were going to be really polished. Here we go.
Hey, guys.
Hey, welcome back to Gleeboot.
Earlier, too, than we normally do.
Yes, this is... Maybe we just haven't had enough of a soul-crushing day to be polished yet.
Okay.
Hannah looks excited about something.
I'm just shaking out all the shit, I guess.
Yeah, welcome to Gleeboot, the show where we get drunk and talk about rebooting Glee, and this is our Megasode where we talk about Glee Project Season 2. Julia has been asking me to talk about it since we did our last episode.
I have just had so many thoughts on the Glee Project since I watched it, which I guess at this point is like a year and a half ago. And I was so excited to talk about Season 1, but I'm even more excited to talk about Season 2 because it's categorically much worse than Season 1, in my opinion.
I thought it was easier to watch. I still think it's garbage TV, but it was definitely more digestible for me.
I feel like the people in Season 2 are way more talented.
Yeah, they did better casting this season.
Yeah.
I guess with me, it's that Season 2 becomes much more of like a talent competition, whereas Season 1 was like a Ryan Murphy shitting on children competition. And I kind of like watching Ryan Murphy shit on children more than this.
I was disappointed with the outcome. I was very disappointed.
Oh yeah, I've got thoughts. See, the thing is, because I've seen Season 4, I already knew who won because I recognized him. Didn't know maybe until a few weeks ago when we decided that we were for sure going to do Glee Project Season 2, that he was even the winner, this mysterious person. So yeah, I messaged Cullen from the gate. I was like, I'm already disappointed. And I haven't met anyone else on the show.
It's just the least interesting choice again.
Yeah.
The least interesting choice last season.
So I just want to quickly say that I described this person to Cullen as white bread. And then it turns out this person isn't completely white.
He's very white passing, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very.
So, yeah.
What are we drinking?
What are we drinking? Yeah, what are we drinking?
Can't forget about the alcohol.
Yes.
I am drinking that melodramatic wine that I drank a couple weeks ago. Honestly, I don't remember when I drank it last. I thought the name of this wine fit the essence of a lot of Glee Project Season 2. I even think the word melodramatic was used a few times. So I'm not only just drinking it, I'm drinking it out of a Stardew Valley mug because it's the greatest possession that I own. Shout out to my friend and coworker Alicia, who may or may not listen to this podcast. I don't know, but she deserves kudos. I got it for Christmas like just this past year, and I use it basically every day.
Nice. You drinking anything, Julia?
House wine from 7-Eleven because it's trash, and so is the Glee Project Season 2.
Nice.
It's a rosé, if anyone cares, which I kind of regret because I feel like rosé already tastes bad.
Add in some aluminum there.
Yeah, and a very metallic taste to rosé. Yeah.
Wine I don't think should be in a can.
I agree.
But it is. So here we go.
Cullen and I are drinking screwdrivers. It is 1 p.m. here, so
Still brunch?
yeah. And it's good. They're like good. It's good.
It's
right?
good, yeah.
I made them. So.
What kind of vodka?
Earth vodka. I got it for my birthday last year.
So Glee Project season 2. We got some contenders. We got Maxfield. He's a country boy who just learned to sing.
But like 6 months ago.
The strangest thing to me. Okay, so was it that he learned to sing, or he just like discovered that like he's good enough to perform? Because honestly,
They
I
really
couldn't
made
tell.
it sound like he'd never like opened his mouth and sang a song until 6 months before the show.
And of
Honestly,
course, like,
though, I'm pretty sure he's like a shower singer. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the same exact thing that happened to Finn happened to him. He was blackmailed to go on the Glee Project
yeah,
by someone.
and of course, like he didn't stick around long enough for us to find out really what his backstory meant. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we
I'm
can only
taking it
guess.
as he had not sung a single note in his life until 6 months, and then his voice came out like an angel. And when the talent producer heard it, was like, "Go on the Glee Project."
Yeah.
And
They're
that-
like, there's no other popular show right now where you could go and sing for money.
Yeah,
There's absolutely no other option at all. There's not 17 other choices,
because
which he would have been more qualified for.
Yeah, I'm convinced none of these people watch Glee sometimes because they'll be like, you're going to sing this song, which they sang on Glee, and they're like, I've never heard it. And I'm like, did you watch season 3?
Yeah, exactly.
They had all the songs that have been sang on Glee, right? Like that's the thing for like whatever their music rights or whatever. It's all songs that have been sang on Glee.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe, I mean, they probably already have the music rights to season 4, so maybe there's songs that haven't been sung yet at that time.
We have Taryn, who we didn't get to know much.
Taryn with a T?
Yes.
Okay.
And with a Y instead of an O or an A.
Taryn, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was very shy.
Very
She
shy.
was.
Yeah.
She reminded me a lot of like how I probably would have been on this show.
I respected her for being like, you know what? This isn't for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's good.
Uh-huh.
Good to realize that about yourself.
We have Danny, who I believe prefers they pronouns now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I have seen a couple of videos on my YouTube, probably because my computer and my phone are listening to me, so they're recommending videos based on the fact that I watch Glee a lot. One of the videos was like where the Glee Project kids are now, and
did you watch that video?
No, I have yet to watch it because I was like, I've had enough of this content for now.
I watched it.
There are a couple people I'm interested in.
Yeah. I actually am curious of where all of them went, but
Well, I can tell you, I've just done my research on the internet.
Perfect.
Danny is now they, but on the show, she was a she.
I believe so, yeah.
We have Tyler, who was a trans man who now also prefers they pronouns.
Okay.
And starred in the Ariana Grande Positions music video because they are friends with Ariana Grande.
Wait,
What? Crazy.
Wow.
I've seen that video so many times. How did I not connect the dots?
That's
How
crazy.
did that? When
Good for them.
did they become friends with Ariana Grande?
Well, they
How
win.
does anyone become friends
They
with
were
her?
friends with Miley Cyrus first, I think.
Okay, that
Like
makes
before
I
the
have
Glee
more questions.
After the
What
Glee
a
Project.
flex.
What? How
I was
did they?
friends with Miley Cyrus
these
first,
friendships?
but now I'm friends with Ariana Grande.
We have Mario, a blind African American man who had quite the attitude.
He
Yeah.
was... I can't even think of the word.
He was a little socially awkward.
Well, yeah, but also, like, arrogance?
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
was like a very talented, very attractive guy who was like, what, 18, 19? So it's like,
And he knew it.
yeah.
He knew both of those things.
So, like, I believe he would grow out of it, but on the show, he definitely had a lot of arrogance to him.
Yeah.
It reminded me kind of of Alex Newell, who was like kind of arrogant, but we were like,
Oh,
they're gonna
so
grow
good.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like and like, I don't know, I don't like to fault people who are between the ages of like 14 and 20 who are arrogant, because I'm like, good for you, because everyone I knew hated themselves. So
Yeah, right.
for not. I liked him. I don't think it wasn't a surprise that they were like, we don't want to have to work with this guy
Yeah.
every day on this show.
Yeah. Then we have Hot Mess Express, Charlie.
Oh my gosh.
I
Charlie.
love that. Yeah. No, that's a great way to describe him. I can't wait to get into it.
Charlie probably has won the award for causing me to pause most times. Because of like, when things are uncomfortable, I just like pause and like look at my phone like I can escape.
Except that it's waiting for you to hit play and you can't escape.
You just got a lot of feelings.
I charged right through the show.
I also did. There was no pausing for me, except when I had to like get up and do something.
I fast forwarded all the way through the like that slow sequence when Robert puts the list up and he's like, "Okay, guys."
I love
like,
that sequence.
No, I fast forward, and then as soon as I find out who it is, all right, next episode. I don't care what their keep holding on sounds like. I didn't watch any of those. I could not do it again.
How do you not feel all the feelings that keep holding on is supposed to make you feel?
The best Avril Lavigne song about a dragon out there.
That is still... I watch so much reality TV, and I watch so much dumb reality TV, and the dumbest thing of all of the dumb reality TV I watch is the fact that in every single episode they sing "Keep Holding On" when they leave. I've never seen anything worse than that.
Of course, I had to suffer through another season of like extreme close-ups for the talking heads. It was just I can't.
I just want to take a break and say that I love Robert, the casting director, and Zach Woodlee. I just love their energy.
Yes.
And like the way Zach
energy.
Woodlee like holds his hands.
Like
Yeah.
how is that like this?
I had some issues with Nikki this season, but I used to like her.
I had a couple moments where I was like, but I loved Zach even more.
Yeah.
I loved him.
Yeah. I'm also just like, how busy Zach must be to be like choreographing actual Glee and this at the same time. Like,
He's always smiling, and he always gets all teary-eyed when they do last chance performances.
I know. And also, like, they just did such a good job this season, I felt, of like helping to adapt the choreography and like work with Mario and Allie. And I thought that he did a really good job of like never leaving them out or anything.
Yeah. I mean, kind of on that note, I found it very interesting, those couple small segments with Zach and the assistant choreographer, like having Mario show them, like, this is how I learned the choreography. It was a really like interesting moment of like solidarity and respect. And also just like, he's going to become a better choreographer for knowing this too. So it was just really interesting, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have our sweetheart Nellie.
So shy.
Nellie.
But so sexy when she actually does it.
I know.
But
I know that she is just like a flower who's not ready to blossom yet.
Yes, exactly.
And I felt weird about them pushing that on her as
Yeah,
well.
it was very strange.
And I know that's like what acting is and like what Hollywood is, but on a show that's like supposed to be like, we're trying to create a character for you that like fits you, to then be like, do this thing that makes you really uncomfortable all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was not great the way they treated her. There were a couple of, I got both frustrated with them and with her reactions towards the end. But she was one of my favorite contestants.
She was someone among a couple others that they hung on to for so long. Like, they would hold on to people even though like they were letting go other people who were more consistent for longer periods of time. That was fascinating to me.
It was real weird. The way this entire show is set up just is like not great. Contestant just like the way that they eliminate people is not awesome.
I also felt like I got to know the contestants a lot less this season than I did last season. Like, I just didn't know anything about so many of them, and last season I felt like I got to know them really well.
Yeah,
I feel like they were more mature this season. Last season was a bit of a hot mess.
The show didn't try to make a villain.
Yes, true.
When we had probably 2-ish villains last season, and the show succeeded at making me not like them. But this season, they were much more like, some of these people have flaws, and they would address them, but they weren't like trying to make these people out to be like horrible people because of those flaws.
Josh wants to say hi.
Hi.
Hello. I'm pissed. I tried out for the Glee Project and they rejected me. I tried
When you were 14.
I was a wee 14-year-old. I'm still bitter, so I'm glad you guys are finally taking me down a notch.
Josh. You need to put that on the podcast.
That's
quality content. Yeah.
Yes, they did not have a villain this season, and that was nice. They would have had they cast him.
The youngest cast member, 14 years old. This kid is
No, yeah, I did like, there were some of the editing stuff I liked this season and some I really didn't. I think also like they didn't want to repeat some of the same themes as last season, but some of the themes they used last season were like how you got to know the people.
Yeah.
Like especially like the sign one.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't make them.
I'm glad like, they didn't make them, but also
like being gay or having an eating disorder.
Yeah.
What was that one person who like didn't have a vulnerability and
Cameron.
like kind of
Cameron, this is okay. I'll get into this rant more later, but Cameron, who was too normal and well-adjusted, so then they pick person who won, who seems very normal and well-adjusted.
Yep.
And like as we learned later, wasn't. But that's like a post-Glee Project thing. But as they portrayed him on the show, is
interesting. I don't know anything about him, so I can't wait to learn.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, he's got some shit.
Then we have Abraham, who dyed his hair at one point during the show, and everyone made a big deal out of it.
Yep.
That was so weird.
Bright red.
Yeah, it started bright red.
And he dyed it black. And then they were like, ooh, he's hot now. And I was like, well, he's been hot this whole time.
Yeah. I don't know. What was it like? Now he exudes masculinity. And I was like, well, okay.
I don't think so.
I don't really think
and
that
guess what?
happened.
He doesn't need to. Because he was fantastic.
He was.
I liked him a lot. I feel like he was one of the ones who just like in editing, they never showed us him. Like we didn't really get to see like,
didn't know what to
and
do
he
with
seemed
him.
like someone who probably was like really talented and fun, and we just didn't get to see it.
The few moments they have with him, though, I think are really interestingly complex, which brings me to a moment about Nikki that I don't love.
Yeah.
We can get into
just to give you a little bit more of a visual, listeners, Abraham he's Asian American. He has like all-time low hair. Like that very like
That's a really good way to put it.
2000s boy band hair was very in at the time, and now you're like
really loves wearing platform shoes.
He dresses kind of punk, and then
he looks
sometimes
like he's in a punk band. Like
he does, yeah.
In a way that was very in fashion in like what 2011, 2012 when this came out. And he had like a red streak in the front of his hair for a while, and then halfway through was like, I'm gonna dye it black.
Yes. So I like Abraham.
Yeah.
Then we have Shanna, who
He has the sweetest face.
I know they called her very Disney once to say she was very bubblegum, and I'm like, but she does have like a Disney princess face.
She literally looks like
a princess.
She looks like the 1950s cartoon Cinderella.
Yeah, but she looks like the girl in Princess and the Frog.
Charlotte?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
She looks like
For
Charlotte.
a second, I thought you meant Tiana, and I was like, wait, what? I forgot. there was a woman in that.
no.
Yeah, no, you're right.
The
She
white
does. She
girl
looks
in
exactly
Princess
just
and
like
the
her.
Frog.
Yeah.
And like, she was so bubbly, and she had this Southern accent, and she was one of my like standard faves, but I think she's also one that, because she was so good consistently, the camera didn't really get enough of her. They didn't really want to dive into her.
I didn't feel a connection to her because we just didn't get to see enough of her.
Yeah.
But she has like a interesting past that she talked about a few times that we just didn't really
delve into.
talk about. And in the first season, I'm like, well, they would have harped on that kind of probably too much, but
yeah.
Find the middle ground.
Yeah, because people used to call her a crack baby, and
her mom was
into drugs.
Into drugs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shanna is now an out and proud lesbian country star.
Oh.
Whoa. Whoa. Hold the phone. I'm just stunned. Proud. I'm happy for her.
Yeah.
I like her a lot. I wish that we had gotten more of her. I think her being so good, the show treated her as just something in the background.
But like her voice was amazing. She had the best voice of the season, in my opinion.
I
like
agree.
Her and like Lily and Allie were like just below her, in my opinion, but I just thought like her voice was so cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Then we have Lily May, who had trouble taking direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed her.
I had complicated feelings about Lily May because half the time I was like, yeah, go Lily May. And then the other half of the time I was like, shut up and sit down.
Yeah. I think though that like, of course she was 20, 21 or something like that. She was sort of in the middle ground of people's ages, I think. And I think that it's one of those cases where like she was relatively confident, and I think it was something of the not being able to take a lot of criticism was hopefully something she would grow out of. That's kind of what I was hoping for.
I also felt like at times she played it up for screen time in a way that I admired. I was like, get your screen time, girl. She probably had the most of the whole season.
So many talking heads with her.
Oh yeah. And I was like, you know what, do it. Like the whole time feud, I was like, I feel like this is fake. And I feel like you're playing this up to get on TV, and I respect it in full. I like her a lot.
She's a bigger girl, and I think a couple times she said her weight on screen, and she owned it, which I appreciated. I really respected.
Yeah, and I just liked that, like, I don't know, there were times when it kind of seemed like some of the people were like trying to get her to play like a less confident version of the bigger girl, and she just like shut it down. And like you could tell that like that's what Ryan would have wanted, and she just like wasn't having it, and I respected that a lot.
Then we have sweet baby boy math fetishist Michael.
Oh my gosh.
Fetishist. Oh my god.
Can I just say
anything to Michael?
I loved Michael.
When we got to the top 4 or 5 and he was still there, I was like, who?
I love Michael.
Listen, I liked Michael. I thought he was sweet, but he was someone I don't think deserved to get that far. Because what are they looking for? They're looking for an actor. They're looking for a singer. They're looking for someone who can sing in the studio. He can't really do any of those things until all of a sudden he can. And I think he got lucky.
I think he grew a lot. He was like 18.
He did grow a lot. He's adorable. Can I just say he's so freaking cute? And especially when he wears glasses. And
I mean, he's cute. I do think he's cute, but there just like wasn't anything to him. He didn't have any standout talent.
He loves math. I think that's cute.
He thinks math is sexy.
Yeah.
I picture him being like, "Oh yes, numbers."
What's that
Like,
song from
stroking
Crazy
his
Ex-Girlfriend that's like
Love
the map
triangles.
of love triangles? That's his song.
Oh my god.
I did not think he was going to win, but he definitely has that underdog sort of value.
He at least had something to him in that he seemed kind of depressed and anxious. Whereas, like,
I identify with that.
can we say
Yes.
who won? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
We're getting there.
He
my
had
friend.
nothing to him. Like,
Yeah.
like a cardboard cutout of a man. I hate
Yeah,
him.
I don't know. There is a moment which we'll probably end up talking about when Shanna went home. She literally told Ryan, "I think Michael should be here in place of me," and I was like, I agree. Like, at least Shanna was consistent, showing that she could be a really good professional. And Michael, it just seemed like he kept not meeting standards, but they kept him along.
Yeah,
So
he
it
kept
makes
on
me
being really close to going out, but not.
It makes me
Mhm.
feel like there was something going on in the background of the show that Ryan was like, no, I think he's going to be able to do it. So it was something that maybe we weren't seeing.
It was kind of a similar arc to like what Damien had in the first season, and that like
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
really came up.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think there was something kind of behind the scenes happening.
I definitely felt like Michael had Damien energy.
Yeah.
Because he was the nice guy that you could like and root for.
but Damien could sing.
Big Damien
Like-
energy.
Damien had a voice, and Michael doesn't.
Yeah, I did feel like, also just because I was so dissatisfied with the ending, I was and especially with what I know about Blake now, I'm like, they're gonna go for a basic white boy. Why couldn't they have gone for Michael?
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know if
think for
one that
Michael.
white boys shouldn't be allowed on this show rant now or later, but I have one prepared about how white men shouldn't be allowed on the Glee Project. Whenever we want to hear it.
I mean, you've introed it. Might as well go.
Yeah.
Okay. The Glee Project is supposed to be a talent competition to find talent who they couldn't find otherwise. If they wanted to cast a mini Finn, which is what Blake's character ended up becoming, they could have held auditions and had hundreds of thousands of people come out and audition. Blake could have auditioned. He was a working actor in LA. He would have come out. They could have cast him anyway. There's no point to have straight white boys on a show that's supposed to find unique talent that they couldn't find elsewhere. Honestly, there's an argument that like straight, thin white women shouldn't be allowed either. But like to have that and then to have two straight white male winners last season and then a straight white male winner this season is just like spitting in the face of everything they claim this show is.
Yeah.
Reflective of the problems with Glee as a whole, because Glee as a whole argues that it's this like super representative show, but then sidelines its minority characters and puts them in storylines that are super stereotypical and like basic. And it's just frustrating to like see it happen on this show that like keeps on talking about how they represent all these people and have them come in with like this really diverse group of contenders and then just like shove them all to the side for this guy who they say has star power, which I don't see at all.
Yeah, like that was the thing. Is like I knew he was gonna win, and that's what I kept looking for. I was like, okay, well, what is it about them that they love so much? And yeah, I mean, he comes down to being right next to two people who I think are how Ryan always says it, are the show. Like
Yeah.
they're two people who could have added those conversations that he wants to have with his show. They're representations
And
that
who are
he
very
wants to
talented
actually
people.
have. Very exceptionally talented. I
Yeah.
also think they're better performers than he is. They're also better singers than he is. Like,
Definitely better singers. I don't know why no one talked about how Blake couldn't really sing.
yeah, and I would agree that Ally's at least as good, if not better, of an actor than he is. So like, that's what baffled me.
Let's
Is it
actually
like
introduce
Award
the rest of them because we have not gotten there yet. So
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
That's been pissing me off for years.
So we have Eileen, She is a Turkish Muslim girl, which the show will not let you forget, and which makes us wonder how Glee would handle a Muslim storyline.
I want to say probably very poorly.
How they treated her in the music videos.
Yeah. I think like if the show was more responsible in general with handling various storylines that have to do with diverse representation and really touchy subjects, if we knew the show to be more responsible, I think she would have been fantastic. But I still was like, there's something more to her than there is to Blake. And I'm like,
I love her. I think she was super fun.
She was such an interesting person.
Yeah. I just don't think Ryan wanted to let her be on the show in the character that she should be playing, which was like a fun, bubbly character. He was like, you need to be subjugated. And she wasn't going to do that because it's not who she was. And that's why, but like, I loved her. I think she's so much fun.
I agree.
She had such a fun voice. I think all of her performances were so fun. I liked watching her.
She was consistently my favorite, like one of my favorites.
What's interesting with Eileen is they kept being like, oh, what would your mother think of this dress? Or what would your mother think of you kissing a girl? And she would always be like, my mom would actually kind of be okay with it. My relatives in Turkey, not really. But she's like, my mom would just be like, oh, it's acting, or oh, she's seen me in worse, or
yeah. And I mean, like, we'll talk about this later, but some of the stuff they did to her in the later music videos I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah. And then we have Tony Award winner Allie.
What?
Tony Award winner for the Oklahoma Revival, first person in a wheelchair to perform on Broadway for Spring Awakening in 2015. Incredibly talented.
First person in a wheelchair to win a Tony.
First person in a wheelchair to win a Tony, yeah.
Lovely. Wait, which Spring Awakening? Is that the one where they did the sign language?
Spring Awakening. Yeah.
Okay.
She was in that. That was in 2015. And then she was in the Oklahoma Revival. She plays Ado Annie, which is like one of the supporting characters, and she won the Tony in 2019. Very talented, lovely person. I was a big fan of her. I mean, and like, I think like Diana Agron hit the nail on the head when she was like, Allie can represent something for this show that Kevin can't.
Yep.
Yeah. And I could just see Ryan just be like, Diana.
But we can't do the number where she gets up and starts walking. I don't want it. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, no, I actually, that moment made me think like, uh-oh, Diana's going to get a really shitty line this week. Because, yeah, no, when I actually wrote that down, I was like, that should have been Ryan's sign. Like, you know what? This should be the person I pick if I actually want the show to live up to what I say it is. And what also, the people on the writing team annoyed the shit out of me because they're very similar to Ryan and being like, well, this is what the show does. It's so inspirational. I'm like, to a point, yeah. But then when you have people who could actually, like, you could create interesting characters that actually do what you want the show to do, you're either going to pervert that or you're not going to take the chance anyway. So it's like...
And I would say, like, if I was in that writing room, I would be so frustrated, I probably would quit.
I don't know.
There's not... I don't know if you saw, but, like, the writers who were sitting there were primarily white.
Yeah. One of them, he actually played the Scarlet Fever pointing to his ear guy in season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Edgeworth is like a pretty, I mean, not well-known actor, but like he's a working actor and he also writes.
Yeah.
And Riverdale creator Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa was there.
Yeah. Speaking of shows with
yeah.
representation issues.
Yeah, I think Allie was incredible. She would have been my pick to win out of the final 3.
I agree.
But I would have been happy with her or Eileen or Lily or anyone who wasn't Blake. So should we want to introduce Blake?
We have Blake Jenner.
No relation to the Kardashian Jenners.
No, he's part Cuban. He's the whitest half Cuban ever, according to his shitty poem.
Yeah, okay. I cannot wait to talk about that. But yeah, so
he's very white passing and Ben
extremely
very white passing. I mean, should we get into the...
Yeah.
Okay. Blake Jenner wins, goes on Glee, meets Melissa Benoist, another actress on Glee. They get
Who
married.
does she play?
You'll find out.
We'll find out.
Okay.
She plays Supergirl later on in life.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
But at this time, they're on Glee. They get married. They divorce. And a few years later, Melissa Benoist comes out saying that she's a victim of domestic abuse and detailing some extended violent physical, emotional, verbal abuse. She doesn't name the person, but like 9 months later, Blake comes out with his own statement that confirms that it was him because he's talking about the same incidents. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a person who abused his wife, and that is not, he's a piece of shit. And obviously they didn't know he was going to go on to do that on this show, although like all of the people with Glee who have ended up in bad ways, there's a lot of like weird foreshadowing that you don't really like.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So just to get that out up front, I didn't like him before, but don't stand for him now.
I did hear about that. I did know about that, but I guess I just didn't connect these as the same people. Interesting.
I mean, yeah, she didn't name him exactly, but then since he released his own statement detailing the same incidents, I think it's fair to say that he owned up to it and we can say that it was him.
Yeah.
I thought
He said that she was abusive as well in his
And
statement.
she
'Cause
admitted that too. She said that like she got violent in return. She said that in her statement, that like she learned that violence begets violence and that she became someone she didn't like, but that he perpetrated a lot upon her. And he seems to admit that as well.
Yeah, and she's still working, and I haven't seen him in anything.
Yeah, he's not been working really since that statement came out. Although, I mean, he is still supposed to be in the like Merrily We Roll Along movie that they're filming over 20 years. So maybe in 20 years he'll have another movie come out. To me, is like another just like frustrating thing of like they picked this basic white boy, almost white boy, whatever, and then he also turned out to be a piece of shit. It's like it's even worse because that's like Glee's specialty.
Yeah, it just casts a shadow over the whole season too. Like when I was watching it, because it made me wonder, like, would I like Blake if I didn't know this about him?
And I still don't think I would. And like we can get into that, but they're talking a lot about like the star power that they think Blake has, and they talk about it constantly, and I never see it.
Yeah.
I can see it, but it doesn't. It's like, how do I put this? He feels like a really grown-up Disney star, like from the Disney Channel.
Interesting.
Yeah. I did also, one thing that's curious to me about Blake, I did read somewhere that he was recruited through the industry. So like he said, like, I was out in LA, I was already auditioning and stuff. So he was someone who was like found, who was already in LA as like a working actor. And I don't necessarily like that because I do like, and so like, I feel like that kind of like gave him an edge because he was like a person who was working. And so I wonder if like from the beginning, it was like predestined that Blake was probably going to win.
I can see that. Yeah. It's pretty unfair actually when you think about it.
Yeah. I think also like I said before, like I think he was one of the stronger actors, and I think it's just because he had more practice than other people, like from what it sounded like everyone else's experience. So,
and again, I just like my thing with people, I mean, like heavily like Blake because he's very conventionally attractive. Then like there was no barrier to entry to him to get into the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Like if he wanted to get into the entertainment industry, which he did, like it would have been pretty easy for him. And that's the frustrating thing when you compare him to someone like Allie or someone like Eileen or someone like Lily or someone like Abraham, who's like, there's such a limited subset of roles that they're allowed to take. And that's kind of the benefit of something like the Glee Project is that you get a role created for you. And we don't need to be creating roles for a guy who could audition for any male role.
Yeah. It's like, that's like, there's 1,000 roles and he's just waiting for someone to choose him for one of those 1,000 roles. Something for like Eileen or Lily or Allie or Abraham.
There's like 5 roles.
There's 5 roles. and they have to be good enough than all the other people who look and are similar to them to get that
And also the like 5 roles are like, do you want one line in the background of a scene?
Do you want to be
Like-
a stereotype?
Exactly. Like Blake could get a leading man role. That's who he is. And it's frustrating that we then go through this whole competition to be like, here's a guy who is gonna make it anyway.
So, episode 1, individuality. They sang Born This Way. Let's talk about how the homework assignments in season 2 are actually substantially better than the ones in season 1.
They actually got good guests this time. Leah Michelle is there. It's not Darren Chris 3 times.
Right, yeah.
I love Darren Chris, but we don't need Darren Chris multiple times. Yeah, they got dope guests this season. All season.
Yeah, I feel like because the first season was such a gamble, they're like, we don't want to waste any key cast members' time.
Well, also, I feel like in the first season, the cast members' reps were like, hell no, are y'all doing? Like, back then, reality TV was a lot more stigmatized. So I was reading about like the Legally Blonde show that they did to replace Elle Woods. Laura Bell Bundy in an oral history was like, my reps were like, you can't go on that because reality TV is trash. So that's why Laura Bell Bundy's on it for like 10 seconds. And so I feel like the first season aired and all the reps were like, no. And then in the second season, they were like, okay.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, Leah Michelle looked like she hated being there and she thought they were all testing.
Leah Michelle looked high.
Thank you. I was like, is she drunk?
Really, really
is she
high.
Okay?
Yeah.
She was talking really slow. And
like
I was like,
her blinks were slow. She was blinking
I wasn't imagining
slowly.
it. I was really worried for her, to be honest. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of her. Like, I literally was like,
she had to pop a couple Xanaxes to listen to these kids sing.
Goodness.
What's interesting, though, I think, and this actually starts in probably episode 1 or 2, but last season, Ryan would constantly be like, oh, if this person has an attitude, do we really want to work with them? And I kept saying in our episode, I'm like, but think about the diva that you have running amok on your set. And like when Leah came in and I was like, I would not want to have a one-on-one with her. Like I would be terrified. Like knowing what I know now, obviously.
Yeah.
But I noticed that Ryan Murphy had to be there with her.
Yeah. I bet you she was like, I'm not going to be there unless Ryan is there. And Ryan's like, oh, okay, fine.
The Born This Way performance, like the early homework performances are all like really cringy though. So I get it.
Yeah.
I thought they were great.
They were better than
compared to
last
first season.
Oh yeah, they were better than that.
Way better.
There were a couple that I thought were awful. I think I loaded them, but yeah.
Yeah, so they sing Born This Way. Shanna wins the homework assignment. And their music video is Here I Go Again. And it's like Glee Club has an imaginary rock concert. And Maxfield is eliminated.
So some of my notes here, I have written, Leah is faking. Oh my God, she fucking hates being there. She did not watch the show or is a fan.
Oh, when she said that, I was like,
no.
I was like,
Never spoken to Damien or what's his face on set. Once.
yeah, there's no way.
guarantee.
I also have, yay, Zach, I love that bitch. And later on, I think Zach is my favorite contender.
Zach Woodlee for a role on Glee.
I want him to be on Glee. Principal Figgins made an appearance in this music video, very briefly. I don't know if you guys caught that.
I did.
He makes a more significant appearance later.
Yeah.
Don't show the Glee class freaking out over him, and I'm like, excuse me?
I need more wine before I can talk about the one that involves detention. I need more wine before we talk about that. I think one of the biggest things for me in this episode was Shanna being in the studio and hitting that fantastic high note literally on like her first take. And I was like, oh shit, she's on another level.
She just has a great voice. I thought the first episode this season was just very like quick. Like somehow it felt like they had more contenders than they had last season, but I think they had the same amount. But
no, they had 14 instead of 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I remember them noting that.
I just was like, I know nothing about this Maxfield character. Goodbye.
Yeah. The final three were Max, Tyler, and Eileen.
Mhm.
And I wrote down Ryan's note to Tyler. It was, I moved by your story, but I don't know if I'm moved by your talent. And I went, Jesus Christ, Ryan.
Ryan was mean to Tyler. And Tyler was not the best singer, like, objectively.
No.
Yeah.
But Ryan was mean to him.
Mr.
Murphy.
Yes. Mr. Murphy seems like he needs to find a job that he actually wants to do.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I have always thought that he hates every single show he has ever done. Like, I just feel like, because at first it'll start as like a really interesting idea. I said this about American Horror Story, and then I think at a point he gets so bored with it and he just hates it and he just lets it turn into.
I think he wants to make movies.
Oh, interesting.
Like, he makes, like, all Ryan Murphy pilots are great. Like, the Glee pilot is, like, pretty great for a pilot, I think. I don't know, like, in my opinion, like, for what the show is, like, for it being Glee, I think the Glee pilot does, like, a pretty good job. And, like, the American Horror Story pilot great, and, like, the Nick Tuck pilot's great. Like, it's just, like, he makes good pilots, and then they just go so downhill from there.
Yeah.
But I feel like he'd be better off just making movies where it can just be good for an hour and a half. Anywho, my point is, I feel like Ryan Murphy should make movies, and then he won't get bored with them in the way that he seems to with his shows. Anyway, I like Tyler. Tyler not sing very well, but such is life. Some people on Glee, the show, cannot sing very well.
Yeah. Some of them can't dance, and you know what? I think he could have played a really interesting character.
I agree. But
yeah.
Anywho, Maxfield, I did not miss him.
I didn't know who he was. I didn't like his haircut. I didn't like anything that he sang.
Yeah.
Next.
So, dance ability.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
I love how Zach admitted so many times over the course of this season that this cast just couldn't dance in general.
Yeah.
That was so fun to me. He was just like, especially like when you get to the finale episode, he was like, y'all are hopeless. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Also, danceability, putting it the second episode is a little bit mean because people have not yet figured out how to dance if they're not a dancer. So it's just like, come on now. I'm terrible.
And it doesn't seem like there were many people who were any sort of professional dance trained. I think last season there were more people who had more experience.
Yeah, last season you had at least some people who had like musical theater dance training, and it seemed like kind of the only person who had like any dance training this season was like Lily had some musical theater. It seemed from like the fact that she kind of took the lead in choreographing a lot of the homework assignments, but like
Yeah, she did.
there wasn't a lot of like this person can dance.
Yeah.
No, there was not that at all.
Yeah. So their homework assignment is we got the beat. Mario and Allie have a bit of a argument over a line, and that's when we start to get Mario's attitude.
Yeah, that was strange. That was a bit strange.
That was new this season, right? That they chose their own lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Oh, I
last
didn't realize
season
that.
they assigned them like ahead of time. And then this time they were like, nope, you guys are going to work together, quote unquote.
I mean, they did that to stir up drama, and it did a little bit stir up drama, but I also never cared about any of the line drama. Oh my God, cat in a box. Like no drama over who got what line did I care about, because it's one single line. I don't give a crap who sings what.
Yeah. Taryn is homesick and decides to go home.
Still respect it.
Yeah, she was getting really kind of, this is how I feel like I would be on reality TV, where I'm too much of a normal person and I just get pissed off at everyone for being so overly dramatic.
She was right though. She was
Yeah,
really
she was.
like, you guys arguing over lines is just driving me insane. I was like, Karen, I'm with you.
Yes.
And I actually felt bad, like when she called her mom, like crying, and I was like, oh God, like I feel really bad for her. She's surrounded by all these crazy people, and she's like, I just want to go home.
And she did, and that was fine.
It was a little strange for me, having watched a lot of reality TV where like you watch like The Bachelor, and when someone's having a moment like that, like the camera would have been immediately close to her face when she was like going home, and it would have like followed her into the limo. And I was kind of happy that they just like let her go, because I was like, that's just like a normal girl who realized this isn't for her. Like, it's not what the show is about. It's good that they were just like with a screen. They were just like, Taryn decided she couldn't want to be here and left. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, it was kind of sad that like a couple of the contestants were like, I didn't even get to say goodbye. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But I get it.
I did also like her. Like, it would have been cool if she stayed and we got to see more of her. But like, if it wasn't for her, it wasn't for her. So
yeah.
Yeah, they go to the choir room. The guest is Samuel Larson.
Yay!
Oh boy.
I think I literally wrote, oh my God, Julia's gonna lose her mind.
I don't like him. I don't think he did shit on Glee. I don't think
He got a boner.
good for
Right.
him.
I only had, 4 episodes?
He had
the 7.
Yeah.
He had,
I think he had like 12.
so
Even.
the same as Damien?
I think Damien had more.
Well, Damien's storyline was shit. And at least Samuel had like an actual storyline. I'm not saying that it was a good storyline, but
as a nice Jewish girl, I didn't care about Samuel's Christian club or whatever. Damien, I thought, was cute on Glee. I don't think they did as much with him as they could have.
no, they definitely did not.
Yeah.
But
At all.
I thought that Samuel was like a lot more of like I don't even know if Samuel has like a memorable song that I can think of from when he was on Glee. And at least with Damien, I remember like a couple of his songs, like especially like the ballad song that he sang when he entered, like whatever that one was.
Yeah, Damien has
the being green one.
Yeah, he has a couple songs that stand out.
Does Samuel even have a solo? I feel like he only does duets.
I think you're right. I think he's only done group numbers and duets.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of him. Still not a fan of him. I forgot he was even a guest mentor this episode. In my brain, I was like, there wasn't a guest mentor in the Danceability episode. But there was. In my brain, it was still Harry Shum Jr.
As it should have been.
We brought him back.
And he, when he leaves, says skadoosh.
I was furious.
Plagiarizer!
I literally was like, but I bet the producers were like, oh my God, remember that was like your thing last season, you have to say it. And he was like, I don't think I want it. Like, I bet you that's how it went down. I don't think
like after his season, he was like, I'm not going to talk to anyone who didn't win because I'm better than all of them. That's just the vibe I get from him.
When that happened, I was like, Hannah's gonna lose her mind.
I did. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I literally was like, how dare he say skadoosh? He stole that from Hannah.
Well, all of these people have watched the first season, so they all know that he stole that line.
Anywho, what else happened this episode?
We get some sparks between Charlie and Eileen, starting those show TV's most uncomfortable relationship.
Wow.
He was so into her. And she seemed to like him, but like he was so into her.
It seemed like disproportionate.
He was like, this is the love of my life.
And she was like,
you're cute.
Yeah.
I think like she did like him, but she was like, this is a competition I do want to win. And Charlie was like, what competition? I'm in love with you. We could
Charlie, like the minute that relationship started, was very checked out of the competition. Like even when like he was in trouble, he was always like, I want to stay so I can spend more time with Eileen.
Yep. So this was the party rock number.
Yeah, the house party number.
Where there was Spin the Bottle, there was a lot of kissing. One of my favorite lines from Abraham while they were like watching the kissing stuff happen, he was like, "Are you sucking his soul out while Eileen was kissing Blake?" I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, and then Charlie was salty, so then she kissed Charlie.
Yeah.
Oh my god. She seems like she strikes me as, I don't know, I find her so interesting because she's incredibly flirty, but then at one point, like, you realize she hasn't even had a boyfriend ever before.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, so you're actually super innocent. You're adorable.
I think she was just super, like, I don't know, I think of her as like a grown-up Powerpuff Girl, kind of, where like she likes to have a lot of fun. She's very bubbly, and she's not necessarily very like, I mean, I'm not saying she's not a serious person. Like, she's obviously had serious stuff happen in her life, but she's not necessarily like treating stuff with the same weight that other teenagers put on stuff, in a way that I really liked, because a lot of them are so melodramatic, to use Hannah's wine word. But she was very not melodramatic, and I think that's what Ryan wanted from her always, was for her to be more melodramatic, and she was just like chill and enjoying herself, and like, that's dope. She seems like a super well-adjusted person. I'm not, so I respect it. I mean, he wanted her to be repressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she wasn't, and that's fair. Like, she seemed like a person who's really enjoying herself and was really happy. And he was like, why are you... It's the same thing that he literally said to Cameron in season 1, was like, why are you so well adjusted?
Because I'm a healthy person. Why are you such... Like, why? What is a good comeback for that?
Exactly.
Why are you?
With Eileen, it was like she came from a background that Ryan decided should make her not well-adjusted, and then she was well-adjusted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed to like upset him in some way and offend him.
It upset his white male gaze.
Yes.
So yeah, the party rock anthem cover was trash. Okay, so really quick though, is it just me, or did they slow down every single number? Like, the tempo was just a couple paces too slow.
Yeah.
I noticed that especially with Tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, even my roommate, like, she wasn't even watching, and she was like overheard, and she's like, did they change the tempo? It was like every song has been just like a couple paces too slow, and I'm like, why?
I felt that as like they did so many pop numbers this season, and all of them were like that. I guess last season they did a lot of pop numbers too, but maybe we had like a little more variety. But like, Party Rock Anthem is not a song that's meant for...
I felt like I was listening to it in slow motion.
Yeah.
It was very weird. And then the music video
was a mess.
It was actually hilarious, with Zach being like, that was awful. Like, they fucked up the number so bad, apparently. It was cringy to watch, but also like, I don't know.
Part of me wants to see a time count on these music videos that's like, it has now been 17 hours since we started filming, and they still can't get the dance that they learned yesterday.
Well, they just threw it out. They were like, yeah, you guys suck so bad, we're just going to throw out the choreography and do your own thing.
But he also said, he was like, okay, you guys are going to have the choreographed stuff, and then you're going to have your, like, breakout, do whatever. And he's like, specifically, don't do these, like, weird wedding dance moves. And then this is where some interesting Lily stuff happens.
Oh, yeah.
Where she admits in rehearsal that she is going to do the stuff that he told her not to do. And he seemed to be okay with it in rehearsal. When it got to set and he was like, don't do these things, change it up, and she still did it.
I felt in that, like, on set, it didn't seem like anyone addressed that note to her specifically.
I agree. I was like, I get it, but I understand where Lily's coming from, where she's like, but no one was telling me specifically, and she's like, in rehearsal,
it's so easy to tell
fine.
her specifically. Like, it was an individual breakout, and if you don't like what she's doing, tell her not to do it.
And he just said, everyone, change it up. And like, I see both sides, but I definitely think that like, yes, her attitude came off, but like she was right. Like they should have been like, no, we told you not to do those things, do something different. So that was kind of disappointing, but that's kind of where the sort of Lily feedback stuff kind of starts.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's also like part an example of her playing it up for television and part an example of the show playing it up for television. Because that would have been such an easy note for Eric to just give her directly, and I think she would have responded fine.
Yeah.
But the show was trying to make a storyline.
Yeah. So then Danny, Tyler, and Lily are in the bottom three. Lily sings "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," and it's a pretty good cover. But Danny's does "Landslide," but they are it's Danny who is eliminated. Yeah.
Can we talk about Danny for a second and something that's not shown on the show at all?
Sure.
Which is Danny and Allie became very, very, very close friends while they were on the show and wound up dating for years after the show.
I kind of saw that in the when they bring everyone back in the last episode where they were like hugging, and I was like, oh, I guess they were a lot closer than I thought.
Talking about like how close she was with Danny, and like when Allie came on the show, she like thought she was straight, and so this was kind of like her introduction, and now she's openly bisexual. And so they kind of like started like having a relationship a bit on the show, and the show doesn't show you that at all, which I just thought was interesting. I wasn't sure. It's not really clear if like that's something that the show like asked them if they wanted to be shown, or if they just didn't show it. But I just thought that was really cute. I think they seemed like they were a very cute couple. They like dated for a few years and seemed to still be friends.
Interesting.
Which I think is in which you don't get at all in the show.
Yeah. Danny was very cool. I liked her.
I was sad when Danny left.
Yeah.
I think the criticism of her performance was valid. She didn't really seem super engaged, and I think the idea that they were saying of like, well, maybe she can't adapt to like high energy situations because she just naturally is sort of more this chill person, I think was kind of valid.
I think Danny was an example of someone who wanted to be a singer-performer and wasn't necessarily meant to be an actor.
Was this the person where they were like, yeah, she seems like you would find her in like a coffee bar or something?
Yeah,
because I definitely got that vibe from her also.
Yeah, I think they even said that, like, yeah, I typically perform in like coffee houses and stuff. But yeah, I think while they may have been represented on the show in some form, like they identified with the show, I do kind of agree that like I don't think they were quote unquote the show.
Yeah, and I don't think they were necessarily like meant to be an actor.
Yeah.
And not everyone is. But I liked their voice, I liked their personality, like they were very fun, and it's very nice on a show that can be a bit dramatic to have someone who's just like fun.
Yeah.
I hated the way that the intro of episode 2 described them, which was a Justin Bieber lookalike who's a girl.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
All right, vulnerability. So this is about vulnerability.
What?
It is? Oh my God.
So the homework assignment is "My Life Would Suck Without You." Weird choice.
Yeah,
which Charlie points out.
It's a vulnerable song, but he's totally right. How vulnerable can you get when you have like a sick bass line? I agree.
Kelly Clarkson is a very vulnerable singer, though, I think.
True.
That's one of her less vulnerable songs, but she does do a really good job of getting that into pop, which I feel like is what they're trying to do, because in Glee, you have to be like, I'm Rachel Berry and I'm singing Telephone, but you're going to see my feelings while I do it.
I love that.
I liked it.
So the guest, so as they're introducing the guest, so Robert's like, this person on Glee is this and is that, and like you see them without seeing their face or much of their body grabbing things, and like at a certain point you see a really long torso, and I'm like, no one's going to be surprised that it is the giant Corey Monteith, because like he comes out and I'm like, is the TV audience supposed to be shocked by this? Because I saw his giant torso. I was like, oh, it's Cory Monteith.
Yeah. He grabs a football too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always shocked. I'm so bad at figuring out those clues. I'm like, I don't know. Who is it?
I didn't guess correctly, but that one, I was like, this Cory Monteith. He's enormous.
So they sing their big group number is Everybody Hurts, and it's about teen bullying.
I
And
don't
some
like this
choices
song.
are made.
Choices are definitely made.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, I almost forgot some of these choices. Okay, so let's talk about the choices pre the actual shoot, where Eric is sitting down with them and he's like, okay, this is the idea. Let's get into your guys' past. What about, like, what's your relationship with bullying? And there are people who get really, like we talked a little bit, Shanna talks about how she was bullied because her mom was into drugs and people at school found out about it. And that was how she found out about it, was through people bullying her. Who else?
Abraham was bullied for being effeminate.
Yes, which is something that comes up later. And I'm glad that we know it in this episode, because when something else happens later, everything is completely different. Blake says that he was bullied and then he got in a situation where he didn't stop bullying, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lily talks about how she was a bully. And I just want to quickly talk about the moment that made her realize she was a bully was the movie Mean Girls.
Iconic.
And then she called up the girl that she was bullying and apologized.
I did respect her for coming out and admitting that she was a bully, because I think that's a harder thing to do on a show like this than admitting that you were bullied, even because, like, on a show like Glee Project, like, everyone's coming there because they were different and they were bullied, you know? Like, that's kind of what Ryan's looking for, is that trauma.
Yeah.
And for Lily to come out and admit that she was on the other side of it, I, like, respected her courage for doing that. I obviously don't respect that she was a bully. Like, we were all shitty people when we were in middle school. Like, none of us were, like, 10 out of 10 A+.
Yeah.
So, like,
I don't know what you're talking about. I was 11.
yeah, I
out of
was
10.
I was great. My frizz was like 4 inches on top of my head. It was really hot. But I liked that she admitted that and that they put that out there. And I also like, they all had major courage for coming forward and, like, saying these things that affected them when they were kids. But also at the same time, like, this bullying episode that they do on the Glee Project is super exploitative. In a way that's, because, like, they're asking these kids to bring forward their trauma when, like, they're 19. Their trauma was, like, a year ago.
Right.
Yeah. It's still trauma. It's, like, not, I don't know.
Like, bullying's not over.
Yeah.
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 Especially for some people, like, I can imagine that Eileen probably still faces, like, bullying about her religion and her ethnicity.
And with these people, you're also, like, they're asking them to unpack their coping mechanisms in the same time as they're asking them to come forward with their bullying. Like, they're asking, like, people to, like, come forward with their most vulnerable selves and then to admit all this stuff when they're young and they're on TV.
They're asking them to do cognitive behavioral therapy on a reality TV show that's not about
them, aside from, like, Robert, who's a very nice man but isn't equipped for this.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that they did it in season 1, except, like, it was weirder because they made them wear signs. So, like, at least this was something a bit, I'm going to say creative, because that's really the only word I can think of. And it actually gets them to really act.
It did feel like an acting exercise.
Yes.
In season 1, they were like, pick one word that describes what's wrong with you. And then
It's like, that's horrible. But
they were
this
a little more
is like,
nuanced this season.
Yes.
This is literally like your therapy session.
Can we talk about Mario and Charlie now?
Yeah. Let's just okay, so Charlie says something I will never forget. I consider myself to be a seasoned actor. That is a problematic line and is going to tell you so much about the future of their acting in the rest of the show. And it does. And I was right.
So Charlie is like, I'm going to do something. So he's filming a scene where he's supposed to be bullying Mario, and he takes Mario's cane and runs off with it. And they're all like,
Mario's the blind
guy.
And
who is actually blind. He is not pretending. He's not an actor pretending to be blind.
No, he is actually blind.
And this wasn't sanctioned within the context of the video, so he didn't
Yes,
know.
no one asked Charlie to do this.
Yes, the note was specifically be behind him and make snide remarks about him. That was the actual note.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe he was supposed to shove him. I don't remember. But like, he was not supposed to take his cane. That was never a part of it. That wasn't something Mario was expecting. It wasn't something anyone told Charlie to do. At least that wasn't there.
It was intense. And he said, I made a bad blocking mistake. And I was like, no, you just assaulted someone. Like,
Charlie
did.
Like, he didn't think about someone else's perspective.
No, he didn't. And I think it was especially interesting because he ends up being in the bottom 3, and they were like, told him that he made a dangerous decision, and he was like, dangerous never even crossed my mind. And I was like, yeah, I know, I could tell.
That's why you did it.
Yeah. And this is just becomes a trend of some unprofessional behavior, because that's also something that's very unprofessional to. It's different if Mario was an actor who was pretending to be blind, but the stick is quite literally an extension of his body. So by taking it, that's basically assaulting him. So
and even if Charlie had wanted to do that and he had gone up to Mario beforehand and asked, "It's okay with you," then it becomes a whole different thing.
Well, Can we also let's just talk about the fact that the show berates Charlie for doing this and then uses that take in the video.
Thank you. I was like, why would you do that? I was like, you would only do that if it was okay with Mario. Like, if Charlie and Mario had talked, like, okay, we're going to do this to make the scene even more intense, then use the shot. But they did. They used the shot in which it was something that was completely unscripted. So
I wonder if a producer told Charlie to do it.
Because in the notes, Charlie is shown taking Mario's stick, except Charlie's wearing a red hoodie, which shows the mentors actually liked that idea and decided to reshoot the scene.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I just feel like, yes, it's more emotionally impactful, but I really I don't know, because they made such a big
I'm okay with
about
it if they talked about it beforehand and Mario's okay with it.
Yeah.
But for him to have done it without Mario knowing and being okay with it, they shouldn't make Mario go through that again.
They should have shown that on screne before choosing a take in which we see that happening. Because otherwise, like, I'm thinking they chose, like Allyssa said, they chose the take in which this was something completely unscripted, but has now become a scripted moment. I don't know. But all I know is that in the context of Me Too and people taking a really hard look at, the way actors and performers interact with each other, this would be something like of a sign of like someone who doesn't have quite the professional aplomb that they need to be on a set. And that kind of
also the show made that storyline within the episode entirely about Charlie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You hardly see Mario's response to it at all. And that's what matters to me, is just that, like,
even give him any like reaction?
I think he got like a 1-sentence talking head, if that. Like, he just hardly gets anything, and it really all becomes about Charlie's journey, which is dumb because like it was something that Charlie did to Mario, and it's about how Mario's reacting to it and how he's doing.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that was frustrating to me, just that like it was essentially like, hey Charlie, you did a bad thing, here's some airtime and a redemption arc, have fun.
And they didn't tell us that, hey, actually we had a talk with Mario and agreed to make it a scripted thing so that we could use this idea, so that we felt better about them choosing a take that had that. Like, I felt very upset by that.
Yeah.
So This is once again, one of many times, Blake is asked to play an aggressive jock. And they're like,
and they're always so surprised at how well he does it.
And his switch from how well he switches from nice guy to aggressor. And the more we know about him, the more that's upsetting.
And they're like, oh, that's a great thing. And we're like,
they couldn't have known.
No,
you can't blame them for knowing because he's supposed to be acting.
Hindsight 2020. They think he's just a really good actor in an acting setting.
My thing when they say Blake is such a good actor, I consider anger the easiest emotion to act.
Absolutely. I agree.
And that's all they ever give him. They never give him like sadness or like melancholy or anything that like they give to the girls on the show.
Sexual or anger.
Yeah.
That's all he's ever gotten.
Well, because I mean, that's in general, is that like a male thing? Like anger for men, emotions for women.
Yeah, but then when they give the women on the show, they give them sadness and like genuine stuff that has to be kind of more under the surface, and that's a lot harder to act than anger. And and they get criticized for not being able to act these kind of subtle, nuanced emotions when anger is really a nuanced thing. Like anger is really easy to be.
I think we should probably talk about what happens in the video in general, is that pretty much everyone is in the role of the bullied person being bullied. And then for other people who are in that role, they become the bully. But what was Blake's being bullied role? I don't even remember it.
No, he had one.
I think he had one, but I don't remember it. He just sat there sad.
I think that's it. I think that's what it was. He sang and was sad.
I think they did show him like witnessing someone else being bullied in a stairway. You remember that?
Oh, interesting. So he basically took on,
or maybe he was the one in the stairway. I don't remember.
I think he was a witness at some point. I feel like they used this, like that seems like something
they used his story.
Yeah.
As
I also like my thing with Blake and them talking about how good an actor he was, because that's what they talk about the whole show, is like Blake is such a good actor. I never quite see it. And I do see that he's a good actor. You can see it from the start, but I don't feel like they give him much to play. They never ask him to play outside of type. And like immediately they're asking Eileen to play outside of type. They're asking her to play like the stereotype of her background. They're asking Allie to play outside of type because later on that they decide that they like maybe want Allie to play Mean Girls. So they're like, play outside of type. That's not who she is. They're asking Lily to play outside of type a lot. Like they're asking all these people to play outside of type, and then they're like, Blake, play you, and sometimes you're mad.
Yeah.
And he does it, and like that's great, and he's fine, he's believable, but they're never giving him a challenge in the way that they're giving other people a challenge.
I think he's practiced as an actor, which makes him look good. But yeah, I think like we don't ever see any sort of range.
Yeah, and then so when Mario is in the bottom three and he gets a comment from Nikki about his pitch, he's like, I don't know why Nikki called out my pitch. Several other people had pitch problems.
He also says, I'm a classically trained singer to her. And she rightfully
he is right about other people having pitch problems, but that doesn't mean he didn't.
And then she's right to be like you to be upset by him saying that, because Ryan calls it out when he's in the bottom three and is like, what makes you think that it's okay to say a defensive line like, well, I'm classically trained, like what do you think it's going to gain you? And I think Mario to an extent maybe didn't think that through, but he also does play up the fact that he's like, I just want to make sure you knew that like I was ready for this challenge or whatever, and I don't know.
My thing is like, I always consider this when it comes to the people who are there who have trained for singing their whole lives versus the people who are there who are just naturally like fine singers. And like, I don't think he's good at taking criticism, but at the same time, I would be like, have you ever heard Charlie hit a note? He can't. Like, I get why he's pissed.
Yeah.
because it's like you're getting critique relative to how you usually perform. And when you feel like you usually perform better than other people, which I think he does, then it like kind of sucks to be like, you're not hitting the note, when it's like, he's never hit a note.
How many of these people have ever taken critique in their lives? That's my question, because I learned from a very like young age, relatively, how you're supposed to take critique. And if you can't take critique, then you're never going to improve. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I also like, even at that age, like, this is very dumb, but I was taught like, you take the critique and then you go home and you get mad about it.
Yes.
You're not trying to get mad in front of the people, like, especially like a mentor like that. Like if Ryan Murphy told me something, I'd be like, thank you, Ryan. And then I'd go home later and I'd cry my eyes out. But
exactly.
When he tells me it, I'm not saying anything other than, thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah,
yes,
like when Ryan Murphy inevitably listens to this podcast and tells us we're all garbage, we're all supposed to go,
thanks,
okay,
Ryan.
Thank you. And then we get back on the podcast, we go, can you fucking believe it?
But I mean, like, but seriously though, is this just a thing that actors and singers just don't get? Like, we all have learned critique.
I think a lot of it also comes down to like high school theater. I don't know, like if you were like the most talented person in your high school theater and you never faced critique and then you go out.
That's true. Yeah, like I think Lily might be someone who's maybe, well, actually she later admits that like she's never really been good at taking criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also because we don't know enough about these people's backgrounds. Like, I don't really know what Mario means by classically trained. Like, what exactly did he do? You know, like, I'm interested. I want to know what he's done, what got him here.
I feel like in the first season, we also got a lot more into the, like, their psyches and why they couldn't accept criticism. Like, especially with, like, Lindsay, like, we got a lot into, like, why she had so much trouble with that. And the people this season definitely had that, too. We just didn't hear it.
Yep, I agree.
And so, like, I don't know why Mario's so, like, I'm sure it has something to do with, like, his past and, like, kind of how it was growing up being a blind person. Like, I'm sure that contributes to it, but we don't know.
Yeah. So
no one gets eliminated. I probably would have eliminated them all, but...
Wait, who's in it? Charlie, Mario, and Lily.
Cullen's trying to get to the end of the season. He's like, send 3 people home every episode.
Pretty much.
What they only probably kept people this week because Taryn went home the week previous.
Oh, that's true.
They needed to.
I know there wasn't a super obvious person to go home this week, but I'm sure they were like, okay, a week after Taryn goes home, we can keep everyone.
Yeah. Exactly.
So next is sexuality. Naya Rivera is the guest. They sing I Want to Sex You Up.
The lost topic we never got to see last season.
I got to see it last season.
Oh, yeah.
We get to see it this time. We get to see them forcing it on Nelly. Great.
Yeah.
This entire music video was questionable.
Okay. My thing with Nelly this episode is they presented her with sexuality and she rose to the occasion.
Yes.
And she
did.
And
her booty bump
outside
was...
of her comfort zone.
That was the assignment.
Exactly.
Yep.
And in that case, it's fine. And then when they continue pushing her down that road, it becomes a problem.
Exactly.
Because she already showed she could do it. And she proved it. And then they were like, this is all you are.
Yep.
Nelly killed it this episode. She did so good. And you could see how much of a struggle it was for her. And I really respect her for doing that. And it sucks that they then continued to make that a struggle for her.
Yeah. Like earlier when I said that, like, she can be very sexy when she does it. And I think that, like, this was the episode in which, because they wanted to make sure that everyone could have that sort of sexual presence that they need for the show, fine. But at a certain point, like, that's what I don't understand. There's nothing really about Nelly that screams that she needs to present that way, because she's got her own thing going, which is still very cool. It just didn't make any sense to me why they kept pushing it.
This entire, like, I didn't like the music video that they made for this because it was
moves
very...
like Jagger / Milkshake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. And... It was very male gaze.
Yeah.
Like all of the women were presenting sexually, and the men were not.
gazing. The men were gazing.
Yes, they were. And I was like, what is there
And the
here?
men were wearing like regular ass clothes, and the women were in like tiny clothes.
I know. And I was like, okay, this was supposed to be a sexy off between men and women, except the men aren't doing anything.
Like,
what the hell?
I noticed that too. I don't get it. I just don't get the mashup. The mashup was Garbo. It was like really bad.
I loved the little Nellie's super innocent. So this was adorable for her, and they had this little scene where they were talking about milkshake, and she was like, "I literally thought this song was about milkshakes."
I love those little interstitial scenes.
I do too. I thought they were great. Did they have those last season? I don't think so.
Not as much.
No,
I don't think so.
But these were
no.
all like really great. There was one. I'll have to come back to it, but yeah, I thought those were really great. Oh, the one about Tyler's laugh made me laugh so hard because he's like, ah! And then Mario said it's a mixture of like SpongeBob and something else. It was great. I lived for those little moments.
I love those. They made me wish we'd seen more of them in the house.
Yeah.
Or wherever it was.
And it was one of those things that actually made me like watching the show. I was like, okay, like I don't mind watching this. This is okay.
So then the bottom three this is where Michael says math is sexy. And the fact that men they just have to gaze is something I remember in grad school when I was reading scripts. I was like, you can tell if a woman is supposed to find it romantic, the man and the women dance together. But if they're shooting towards a male audience, the woman just dances and the man watches.
Yeah.
Because I've read multiple scripts where there's just a man watching a woman dance, and I'm always like, why is he just sitting there? What is he doing?
Some of the good character moments we kind of have to note. This is where the Charlie and Eileen thing kind of amps up a bit. Eileen was apparently too sexy. Shanna wasn't sexy at all. I'm saying all these things in air quotes because everyone has their own version of sexy and sexuality. So,
yeah, I was very confused by this. The fact that Shanna was like, yeah, I think that sexuality is just being myself and like, you know, like having a great smile. Yeah. And I was like, awesome, Shanna. And then they were like, yeah, you weren't sexy at all. And I was like, fuck you guys.
I think also like,
are you
sexy?
serious?
I mean, it's often in the performance, but when you're talking about a scripted show, it's a lot in the writing and in how it happens and in how the two people are interacting with each other. And to be like, this is sexy, that's all in you dancing in this sexy song in this overtly sexy way that isn't going to apply to everyone.
Yep.
Is just like very restrictive. And I get that it's like an acting challenge.
Also, Charlie won the homework assignment and he got his, moment in the sun for the music video. And his moment in the sun was going straight to hell, honestly.
And not in a Lil Nas X kind of way.
Exactly. His role was to, at the end of the music video, to slap the teacher's ass, played by the history teacher who forgot that the Nazis actually lost World War II. Slaps her ass, and then he walks off, and the teacher gets all excited like she's gonna jump him. Alyssa is literally closing her eyes as if she can't hear. Yeah, so that's what happens.
Oh my God, so many terrible decisions.
That was a horrible decision in general for a music.
Also,
not funny.
None of the Glee cast are actual teens, and most of the Glee Project cast are actual teens. And so getting into this sexuality thing with them becomes a whole different subject.
They all
makes me uncomfortable.
Are 18 and older, but that does not excuse the fact they're supposed to be playing.
And that most of them are 18. Most of them are 18, 19. They're 18 and older, but not much older.
But like the context of this video is they're high school students in a sex ed class, and he slapped the teacher's
Assaults the
ass.
teacher. He
And then-
assaults the teacher.
And then they're going to engage in possible sexual activity from the end. Like that's what we get from it. I'm
It's
like, this
disgusting.
is supposed to be
Also-
funny, but to
You
whom?
consider like, yes, high school students have sex, and it's important to tell like stories about that kind, like about sex in high school, because it's important for safe sex and all of that and consensual sex. But to do a music video like this in which you have to be like overtly sexy in a way that many people of that age aren't and don't have to be, because you're still figuring out your own body, is like weird.
Yeah.
And to force those kids into doing that and then judge them on it being adult people is just uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who was judging them was at least 35. I'm going to say late 30s for
Yeah,
that.
and to just be like, you're not sexy enough, 18-year-old girl.
Yeah, and it's like,
It's uncomfortable.
so all of this is to say that this episode, I guess I'm kind of glad that I never saw season 1 version of it. But
Season 1 wasn't as bad, having seen it.
really,
Because
Very
it was
interesting.
later in the season, and
Right.
it just was like more people who were like a little older and were a little more comfortable in it. And just like, I don't know. Season 1's like they made the drama out of like the Hannah Damien relationship issues more than they did
Okay.
out of the like, I'm uncomfortable being sexy.
So Charlie, Tyler, and Michael were bottom
Are in the
3.
bottom 3. Charlie, because he tried to take control of the set and do everyone else's job.
Yep.
Nice.
Super. That
He was unprofessional.
Yeah.
And then Michael was there because he choked in studio, I believe.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then Tyler was one who got kicked off.
Yeah.
And
I-
Tyler, we haven't even really talked about Tyler. Tyler's issue with being in the bottom 3 was because he literally just started transitioning 7 months before this, because I think he said he was on T for just a few months, and his body's constantly changing, so he's kind of just like awkward getting into it. And
And
then
he said that affected his voice as well.
his voice
Yep.
and also his sexuality hasn't really come into effect until a few months ago. He actually started having a love life. So, and the fact that like Ryan kept saying, well, I can't judge you on all these things. I think your story is so inspiring. But then he's also like, but you know what? No. And I'm like, why?
You're not sexy, kid.
Yeah, I was so upset by that because I was like, I thought Tyler was so much fun to watch.
I thought he had a
And
great
this-
attitude. And Ryan
Yeah.
talks about attitude and how much you try. And Tyler always tried so hard. And
Yes.
I liked that. I thought he was interesting. I think like, and this kind of goes back to like what I said earlier, but it seems like this season Ryan kind of dropped the like, I'm creating a character for you and I care about your life story and stuff. But like, I was interested in Tyler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
think
this was
Ryan
also-
was too to a degree, but
This was also the week Michael bombed Lucky and like forgot all the words.
oh god, yeah.
yeah. Michael was not a great performer. He
No.
seems like a nice person. None of his performance really stood out to me.
Mm-mm.
Do we know what he's been doing since this show?
He got engaged recently and he's a singer in Nashville.
Good for
Okay.
him.
Okay.
Good for him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
I liked his little bromance with Blake, even though I don't like Blake. I thought it was wholesome.
Yeah.
Especially at the end when he kept cheering him on. It was like,
It was
aw.
also a really interesting like goal for him to be like, okay, I see what Blake is doing and they like it. Okay, I'm gonna do that, but better. I thought that was actually really interesting.
And it made him better,
Yeah.
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 for sure.
Yeah, so then Tyler's let go, and our next episode is adaptability.
And it's lost. I
It
did
is
not
a
get to
lost
see it.
episode.
I didn't
Not
watch it
me
either.
All right, so it's lost to all of us.
They had to do duets and or something.
Yeah.
I don't.
So duets. Eileen
Blake
and
was in the bottom
Charlie-
2 for the first time. I don't know how Ryan reacted, but he was probably like, oh my God, it's like what I wish I was like when I was a teenager. And then
Eileen and Charlie decided they weren't going to be flirty anymore. And then
That lasted for all of 2 seconds.
Wait, they
Yeah.
decided they weren't going to be flirty?
In episode 5, that's what the recap says. Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed that.
It was, yeah, and then that's when Mario went home.
Which I was also sad that he went home on an episode we didn't get to see.
Yeah, I wanted to see the reasons behind that.
I don't think they
Because
really
I do
even
think he's
explained
very
it.
talented, but he did have the attitude problems.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't know if he necessarily had a pop voice so much as a musical theater voice, which they never really say as a critique, but does seem to apply as a critique.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next is Fearlessness. This is the slushy episode. Each season has their own slushy episode.
So this is where they announce, like, oh yeah, you guys will be rapping. And I wrote, I swear to God, if it's Matthew Morrison as the guest, I'm going to lose my shit. And then it wasn't. I was so glad.
Their homework assignment is Now That We Found Love. Abraham is like, do Asians rap? Jane Lynch is the guest. Jane Lynch is like, I'm fearless. I was on iCarly. No, that's just what I said in my head. And they their group mashup is Hit Me With Your Best Shot / One Way or Another from the Dodgeball episode. And they're gonna be in swimsuits.
So wait, who won the homework assignment that week? Oh, Lily.
Yeah.
So Lily
Yeah.
got to have her one-on-one with Jane Lynch, in which she says, "You remind me of a young Jane Lynch." And I was like, "Do you really, or are you just saying that because it's a Sue line?"
I felt like it was because it was a Sue line.
I don't know. I very much like, in my Lily is on Glee world, she's a head Cheerio. And her and Sue are like
Tight.
what's her face? There becomes a mini Sue like later on. And in my opinion,
Yeah.
Lily was the much more interesting version of that.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. I definitely saw those comparisons, and I think this was like a great week for Lily to win. And
Lily
I thought
did
she
great
dope
this
in
week.
the music video. Like, yeah, she was
Yeah,
great.
just like all around great this week.
Yeah, and they do like they have Nelly come sexy out of the pool and like flirt with Blake.
That was
and-
unnecessary.
Yeah,
We'll
it did.
explain that
super
in context of this
unnecessary.
video.
I think it's because fearlessness was the theme, and they tried to say, "Oh, well, you were afraid of being sexy. That's the fear we're going to make you try to overcome." And I think that's bullshit.
But she already
Yeah.
did. So why didn't they make her like? I mean, Nellie's a very shy person. There were so many things they could have made her overcome, like angry, aggressive. Those were all things that like she hasn't really
Make her
done.
do maybe like being some sort of outgoing thing. Okay, make her do like a cannonball into the pool from like not like a super high jump, but like a somewhat high jump that like would scare normal people.
Or make her the bully, like make her the person slushy.
Yeah.
That would have been against her type in a way that wasn't sexualizing a young girl when
I
they'd
spotted
already.
Rick the Stick Nelson. Did you guys spot Rick the Stick Nelson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but let's talk about the story of this video because it makes no goddamn sense. One, why would there be a slushy machine by the pool? That's going to contaminate the pool, and they're going to have to clean it 4 days. Number two,
Also, swim team sucks. Like, we're gonna bully the swim team.
that also makes no sense. Okay, then number three, why is it that instead of going after Rick the Stick Nelson with a bunch of slushies, they decide to have a slushy fight? That makes no sense. I think
Who's
this is
writing
probably-
these?
Yeah, I was like, this is probably
Is it
the
Ryan
poorest-
Murphy?
the poorest like idea that they have come up with in these music videos. Like it was just it made no sense.
Yeah.
But I do like the video.
It
I
was
think it's
fun,
fun.
yeah.
And this is the episode where Allie gets slushied, and she's like very adamant that she wants to do this, but her body has hard times with extreme temperatures.
Yeah.
And
he
she
takes
ends
it
up,
really well at first.
yeah, and then her
body is like
she-
shock.
yeah, I think she goes into shock or something. Like she starts having trouble breathing.
Yeah.
So
But Allie always has a good attitude.
Yeah.
And like honestly, objectively, she shouldn't have to. And like we can get into that like fucking obstacle course music video later.
Fuck
yeah. That. But we're
getting there.
She always has a good attitude, and I respect it a lot. And shouldn't have to, but she does. And
I think it speaks
like so much your character
of her professionalism.
She's such a professional.
That other people, even those who are closer to her age, don't have. So that's kind of another thing that like makes her such a great possible addition to the cast.
She always does it. She never complains. She always does it. She's always in it. And I just like, I really respect that about her. And again, she shouldn't have to. She should be able to like, fuck this shit because this is dumb. But she doesn't. And I respect it. But yeah, I mean, I like being slushy. It seems like it sucks. I don't want it to happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they didn't make as big a drama out of it as they did in season 1.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Where like Cameron had like a full-on meltdown. Like I feel bad for him because obviously that
it's
sucks.
It's minor brain freeze for a few seconds. If you're an able-bodied person,
yeah,
it shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah. So
it makes me wonder like how many of these people have grown up in winter states?
None.
And like have gone sledding and shit. Like
so
it would basically be like that.
There's
they never face planted in the snow.
Actually, I don't remember where everyone else is from. I actually don't know if there's any like people from northern states where they get cold.
There.
Right? Huh. Because if you have face planted in the snow, like if you've gone sledding, like if you go hiking and you get the snow in your ankles and boots.
I mean, like I've gone skiing and I've like full rolled down the whole hill, which is just like repeated snow in your helmet and your goggles and your mouth. And like it's similar.
Yeah. So
it sucks,
I mean, we've all been slushied before.
Yeah.
Slushied by Mother Nature.
Yeah, exactly.
The earth is bullying us.
And I've always liked that they do that on the Glee Project because I'm like, that is such a like weird initiation into Glee.
Yeah.
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 And there's no way to fake that for the show. Like it has to be something cold because there's ice in it.
Yep.
So.
All right, bottom three.
Bottom three are Eileen, Charlie, and Nellie. Nellie sings a killer cover If I Were a Boy.
Oh yeah. She makes Zach cry.
Yeah. Nellie's very talented. Again, I get back to what I said last season, which is the last chance performances don't matter for shit. It's just what Ryan thinks about you. And it sucks that they don't show us enough about the deliberation to like actually see why they send someone home after a dope last chance performance.
So, what was the episode where Charlie was flirting with Eileen while he was in the booth? Was that Sexuality Week?
Let me scroll up.
I feel like that's this one.
I think it was. Was it this one or was it Sexuality Week? Because I can't remember.
Charlie's distracted. No, it was Sexuality Week, and he's distracted again this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in Sexuality Week, he says that she was his inspiration.
His muse. And so Nikki, this was actually a point that kind of annoyed me. So kind of going back to sexuality, but it does kind of flow into this episode where Nikki was like literally calling out Charlie for being unprofessional. And it's like, you can't do that when you're on a set. But because he did okay in the studio when he was doing that, she kind of let it slide, but then like called him out for it. So it's like there are these signs that like he's just not professional, he's just not up to standard. And so it just makes me question like really what are their standards for judging people every week. He was another person I didn't think deserved to be there as long as he was.
He does this hot mess performance of It's Not Unusual, where he goes into the audience and things to Ryan.
He butchers the song because he completely, instead of learning the words that were written, he takes the rest of the song and makes up his own lyrics to suck up to Ryan. And I'm glad it didn't work.
He does not have a good voice.
No.
He, like, I don't know.
Yeah, in the music video, he also, like, wasn't on cue for his lip singing, and he just, like, there wasn't anything really happening with his performance. And it just made me come back to the idea of, like, oh, but he's such a seasoned actor.
Well, it also makes me come back to the idea of, like, what is he as a straight white male bringing to this show at a relatively low talent comparatively to the other competitors?
That's another thing I didn't understand. Like, I want to see all of the audition before he got onto the Glee Project. That's the show I want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, American Idol has it. They show the
actual auditions.
Yeah, the actual auditions.
Even like America's Next Top Model, we see like the top 50 get eliminated to the top 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually wish we could see that and see like why they made the decision that they did.
The only person we got that from was Eileen.
As opposed to last season, they referenced meeting Ryan a lot. They referenced I met Ryan at callbacks.
Yeah.
In a way that they hadn't last season. So he was definitely there. He definitely chose like, these are people I would put on Glee. And I think with Charlie and Michael and Blake and what's his face who got eliminated first, there was an element of like, we need a young Finn.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Because our Finn just graduated in season 3.
I think that that's something they should have just cast regularly.
Eileen was the only one they showed of the actual auditions because they wanted to show like, oh yeah, we fell in love with your like spunky personality when we first saw you. And like, I would have liked to see that for a lot of people who were on the show. You know, what was it about them that made you guys really interested? Like I don't understand. What is it about Charlie? Maybe we'll never know.
But it wasn't Charlie who went home, right? Not this episode?
No, this episode, Charlie went home.
The Hot Mess Express had reached its destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next is theatricality with guest mentor Grant Gustin, the Flash himself. I
did not recognize him at first because he was wearing glasses.
Yeah. Eileen's like super depressed because Charlie went home. And it made me really worried that was really going to screw up her being in the competition. That like she was going to let that take over her.
But it doesn't, I think.
No. I'm proud of her.
They sang I Hope I Get It from a chorus line, which a musical song, not a pop song for once.
Mm-hmm. True.
Allie is really good in it.
I did not like the
award winner Ally Stroker is good at singing musical theater.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not my favorite musical song.
Me neither, but
I think it was good for the context.
I do get there's a very easy connection between that and this competition.
Yeah, I thought they made an easy choice.
And then their group number is When I Grow Up by the Pussycat Dolls.
Not a theatrical song.
No.
Yes. And they're all assigned pop stars.
That was
Blake is Boy George. Nelly is Britney Spears.
Because she is a sexualized young woman. The version of Britney Spears they chose was a very, very young woman.
Yeah, they chose Baby One More Time, Britney Spears.
Eileen is Madonna. Abraham is David Bowie. Michael is Elvis.
Which I actually loved. I thought it was really goofy. It was good.
Yeah.
Shanna is Lady Gaga in the meat dress.
Oh my goodness.
Bold choice.
Real meat dress.
And
it smelled terrible and she was a champ about it.
I literally was like, put her on the show just for that. Like her having to do that and being so professional, and she looked great.
And it being such a minor storyline because she wouldn't make a huge deal out of it.
They literally could not make a storyline out of it even if they wanted to, because she was just like, I'm not giving them this. I'm not.
Like she had one interstitial where she was like, it smells disgusting, but I'm doing it.
Yep. And I was like, you get it, girl. Do not let these producers make you into anything else.
I think this was actually my favorite music video that they did.
I think it's
Yeah.
super fun to have them all play pop stars. Oh, Lily Cyndi Lauper. That's one we didn't mention.
Yeah, and that was some conflict because they said she was mainly just playing herself, and she said, well, I had a note that it was just to play myself, and he's like, no, that's not the note I gave you.
Here's the thing is, yes, the note was confusing, but if she was confused, she probably should have asked for help.
Yeah.
That's what she should have done as a professional. Has been like, okay, well, if I'm not supposed to be Cyndi Lauper because she doesn't have any really iconic sort of movements, he's like, you're not supposed to mimic her, but you're supposed to play a character. And so he's like an 80s character. That was something he could have told her if she had asked. So it was kind of disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of miscommunications with her.
Yes.
Where, like, she could have asked and they could have told her and neither happened. And it's kind of a fault on both parts.
But also, Lily doesn't even understand that, like, in the industry, you might not get super specific notes all the time because you're around a bunch of other people who also need to get direction. And then if you do need that extra help, you do have to reach out for it. So, like, yeah. It's just something that, like, she's just not experienced with. So it was kind of disappointing, but understandable.
The big drama with this episode is with Abraham.
Oh, yeah.
And Nikki, who I consider did a very problematic thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
So she talks to Abraham about how David Bowie's androgynous, and she says, do you consider yourself androgynous?
When you perform.
Yeah, when you perform.
Before he even records, she does this. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that's a problematic question to ask, but you can immediately see on Abraham's face his reaction to it, and that it hits a nerve and that it hurts him.
And his answer is like, I consider myself to be free.
Yeah. And then he's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, you don't say that. You say, okay, well, what does that mean to you?
Exactly. And then she doubles down on it later at the ending judging.
Well, before that, to the sound engineer, she's like, why is it such a hard question to answer? And the guy was like, it's really not. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
It is, though.
That's a crazy hard question, especially when you're like 18.
And his backstory, us having had that moment where he was like, I was bullied for being feminine or effeminate. And like, those two things together made me be like, of course it's going to be a hard question for him specifically, but for anyone, I think it would be a little bit like,
And so, like, for me, in the context of him going into this video playing David Bowie, who did kind of embrace that term, it's not necessarily a problematic question to ask, but to not react when you see his face and hear his answer, and then to double down on it like she did at judging and be like, it's a problem that you answered the way it did, is just like such a dick move.
Yeah.
Not to mention that he enormously improved and got over that barrier for the music video.
Yeah,
he did a really good job and decided to embrace it. And then they go back and they're like, yeah, but in the booth you were doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but that was in the booth and I obviously got over it, you know?
You completely threw him off. Like, he probably came in there being like, okay, like, I know what I'm gonna do. He already has a sort of really interesting take on a lot of lines that he gets. He could have just very well done that. And then she could have been like, okay, let's talk about David Bowie. But like, I don't know. I just think that like he got thrown off and they needed to have taken that into consideration that like.
And just the way that she reacted to the way that he reacted was a very defensive way, instead of a like, I understand you and embrace you. And this is a show that's supposed to embrace people who are different. It was like, you're wrong for not fitting into the box we want you to fit into.
Yeah, because she starts to mention, like, well, all these other rock stars and pop stars are androgynous, and, like, pretty much all of them. But it's like, but that's sort of ignoring Abraham, who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was almost like she knew she fucked up when she said the question and then didn't want to admit it.
Yes.
But she could have just apologized. Like, there was room for her to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that wasn't the label you were putting on yourself.
I think she
was embarrassed and she took it out on him.
I think she realized she fucked up when she asked the engineer, because not only like, I think like we're saying that like the problem really is the way she reacts to Abraham's answer. and tries to box him. Like that's literally clearly her being like, am I wrong to him, to the engineer? But like, and he's like, no,
But
you're
then
not
the
wrong.
show
And the
edits
show
it in a way to
supports
say
her.
that she's right.
Yep.
Yeah. But
it's
she's
really
not.
fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Nellie is sent home at the end of the week.
Also fucked up.
Yeah.
In a way we've already discussed, but just yeah.
Because she also, the way Eric, the director, was trying to get her to be Britney Spears, he literally said, how far back can you lean across the fruit so that she could probably get her boobs up?
I thought she looked really uncomfortable and like was not doing super well. Like, but it was not her fault.
Yeah, so what bottom three was Nellie, Lily, and Abraham. And Lily was because of all the stuff with the Cyndi Lauper stuff. Abraham is because they probably wanted to support Nikki. And Nellie, I think she was just given a short end of the stick week after week.
Yeah,
after week.
I mean, I agree with Alyssa. I don't think Nellie did super well in the video, but I think it's because she was being sexualized and it made her really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think less so even than like telling her to be sexy. It was just that like repeatedly it was like, you are a sexy character. You are a sex object in this music video, and it made her uncomfortable, and that's fair.
Yeah.
The next week is Tenacity, and they sang. So their homework is Survivor by Destiny's Child. The special guest
Amber Riley.
is Amber Riley.
Again, quality guests this season.
Yeah, right?
They got the OG Glee Club in a way that they never did before, and I love it.
Yeah. The music video that they have to do is...
Well, Allie won the homework, and Eileen was very salty.
Yes. And then their homework, this is the Eye of the Tiger obstacle course music video.
Ooh. Okay.
This whole video frustrated me.
Yep.
It had to be in one take, which they never do on Glee. It was just an added challenge because they're trying to make good TV. And the kids were like exhausted.
They were testing the kids to see how they'd react after very long days of shooting.
Yes.
Because I'm sure Glee has very long days of shooting.
And I think that's a smart test because they're testing professionalism.
I don't know about the athletic quality of this.
I agree. I think, I don't know, like they may have to film those fucking regionals and sectionals things a bunch of times and you're just constantly dancing.
So I do kind of get the athletic quality of it because like I've had a 12-hour day on set as an assistant where literally the only athleticism I was asked to do was stand for 12 hours and I was like, fuck this, I'm dead. I hate it. And so I get why they would want to test that.
Yeah.
Because there is, especially just like acting, even just like small motions that become repetitive over that period of time are difficult.
Yeah.
True.
What frustrated me about this video is that like, I wish they had just come forward and been like, we're testing these kids' attitude. We want to see who maintains a positive attitude after this amount of time. But they made it, and they ended it like they were testing their physicality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which isn't what they were testing. It doesn't matter. Like whether or not they can actually do it doesn't matter. Whether or not Allie could actually hit a backwards shot into the hoop.
That was insane.
Professional basketball players probably can't even do that.
And to have that be the end of the video, so like everyone else, like nothing what they did matters until they get to her, like that's insane.
Yeah.
And what they're testing is attitude, and I think she proved that she could have a good attitude because she came up with an alternate solution.
And so did
that was amazing.
Most people proved that they could do it.
But then the jump rope crew, I don't even think their frustration was like that long or that problematic, and they got shit on. And then like Abraham, who actually hurt himself, seemed to have gotten like lightly shit on.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. Like, they made a big deal out of him asking for ice for his ankle, which he twisted. Like, that's
Yeah.
not a big deal. He should be able to get ice without that being a big deal.
They did a really weird thing where, so right before Abraham slips, Shanna like face plants, and then she gets up, doesn't say anything, she goes out, and then something happens to Abraham and he reacts differently. There's nothing wrong with the way he reacted, and I think there was some slight comparison there.
I did not even notice that Shanna face planted.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
And then like you also see like Shanna going outside and throwing up while they're like in the middle of like after a take.
Abraham
So,
also
like,
reacted well, I thought.
it's like they tried to compare without bringing it up verbally. They were just like, Abraham like did all this, but it's like you're trying to set it up that like, oh well, Shanna clearly had a better attitude because she didn't say anything, but like no, you can't compare that. Like, I don't know. It was just really
And they
strange.
also said a few times like Blake is bearing the brunt of the physical activity in this music video.
Yeah, because he's gonna.
But also, he's
run
probably in the best
upstairs.
shape there. Like, he's probably the one who works out the most. So, like, comparatively, it was kind of the same. And, like, I just don't think it was fair to, like, give him credit because they, like, gave him kind of harder stuff to do when you consider, like, everything was hard comparatively to what people are used to.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And I also think that, like, so they also have, they have them changing clothes too throughout. So like, Lily starts in like a tracksuit, and then at one point she has to take that off. She has a hard time getting her pants off in time. So Eileen and Lily, who had earlier in the episode had a bit of some terse moments, like they have to like help each other take clothes off. So it's added non-choreography to something that's very choreographed for the camera. It was really annoying, and I think you're right, Julia. It would have made it a little bit easier to digest if they would have been like, you know what, actually we did this to make sure that you guys had good attitudes about being a
A
professional
lot of the
performer.
Glee project would have been easier to digest if, like,
We
I
were
could
honest.
the reason behind their music videos, but if they just came forward and said it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would feel better about it.
Yeah.
And actually, if you think about why, like, if they're actually testing attitudes, I think the director probably would have failed miserably.
I don't really
also-
like Eric. I don't know.
going back to the jump rope crew, can we just talk about how first they started with double dutch, which is very hard to do?
Very, very hard.
It's hard to even do this and then sing to camera. But like, so double dutch, like actually spinning the ropes and trying to double dutch is very hard, let alone having to do all the other things they have to do. So I feel like that was an impossible task for anyone, that they set up all four of those people to fail.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Because then when the bottom three is Michael, Abraham, and Lily, they talk about the jump rope stuff. And Michael's like, yeah, I was a little frustrated. And they're like, would Blake have gotten frustrated?
That was so. I was. Oh boy.
They were literally pitting him against Blake, and I'm like, what the fuck was that?
And I get it. They're the same type. And in actuality, in an audition process, they would be against each other because they're the same type. But maybe you shouldn't cast people of the same type. And also, like, don't do that on the show.
Mind game.
Yeah. And Blake
Yeah.
would have gotten frustrated. Anyone would have gotten frustrated.
I could
It was a
just
frustrating
Michael
scenario.
would never. Michael would never say this, but I can just imagine, like, yeah, he would have gotten frustrated. What exactly are you asking here?
Yeah.
Like, you set us up to fail.
Part
Like-
of me wanted to see someone else be like, you know, they couldn't have done this because of the way they'd already structured the song. But it would have been interesting if they would have been like, you know what, let's swap someone out and we'll have someone else do double dutch and someone else can take their place. If that would have been possible, you would have seen the exact same thing. That other person still struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Because
just like,
Blake was asked to do a bunch of stuff alone, and then the other people were asked to do a bunch of stuff in a team. And doing anything
Yeah.
in a team is harder.
and then sing to camera.
Yeah.
So bottom three though were Lily, Michael and Abraham.
And Abraham is sent home.
Because of his quote-unquote reaction. And
Abraham, I think it's important to say, comes out and gives a speech about how much he wants it.
Yeah.
And that speech, to me, parallels very well with Blake's little poem nonsense that he does at the end.
Yeah.
Everyone
It works
loves.
for one of them and it doesn't work for the other.
Well, I think it's the
fair,
right
And it shouldn't have
Abraham-
worked for either. It's kind of bullshit.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Abraham's kind of more, that didn't strike me as being a speech. That kind of felt like a tantrum
Yes, I
to
agree.
me.
Yeah, I was cringing. I paused, and it wasn't
I was
Charlie. It was
cringing during
Abraham.
Blake's poem, which we'll get
Yes.
to, but to me, they're all about like who wants this. And it seemed to me when Abraham gave that speech, I was like, okay, the person who doesn't want this out of those three is Michael.
Yeah, I think Michael is so. I think he's also.
I'm sorry,
too
Alyssa,
chill.
you look so sad every time we say something bad about Michael.
No, I like him as a person. I don't know if
He
he
seems
should
like
have
a
gotten
great
as far as
person.
he did, but
Yeah, I think he's too chill about the whole thing until toward the end, which is one of the reasons why I don't think he should have stayed as long as he did. But
well, and I mean, it's like, here's the thing, like, if how do I put this? Taking criticism well and improving as much as he did every week is a hard thing to show on camera. But if
really-
the mentors,
that's true.
like
Yeah.
work with him, then maybe him like wanting to be there is more equatable to him actually improving, instead of like, you know, like being chill doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want something.
Yeah.
I think if he did improve, I don't think it was very obvious at all. I think there were other people who showed more improvement over the time that then they were there and ended up going home. But like Michael was still making the same kind of mistakes over and over again. Until
I don't know.
finally he did.
I feel like Michael improved.
I thought he improved, but again, I get back to I don't think a straight white boy is what you need out of this show.
But he was there, and so like it's not his fault.
I know it's not his fault, but also I'm like, I don't need him.
So next episode, romanticality. Julia made a face.
I don't think romanticality is a word. Because I tried
That's why I
writing
made a
it,
face.
but
All the stuff that they put with like gleeality, I'm like, where did you come up with the ality part?
why does it have to be ality? Like
Exactly.
just use a real fucking word.
Like, what about ability? Romantic ability.
Yeah.
Their homework is More Than Words by Extreme. And then the homework winner is Blake because the guest is Darren Criss.
Also, something I thought was really cool.
Did you say the homework winner is Blake because the
Yeah,
guest
I
is
was
Darren?
just listing everything. I don't
Okay, I
know.
was like, wait,
Those things are
what?
definitely correlated. So I think something that was really cool, but I don't understand like why this happened. But the guy who wrote the song that they did for homework was the one who accompanied them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but why is he here? Like that's super cool, but like why?
Maybe when they were trying to get the music rights, they were trying to his agent was trying to get him more like, I don't know,
He's like,
visibility.
I'll only
or
do it
something?
if you actually put me on there. Or maybe
Yes.
he was friends with one of the producers and like, hey, would you want to come on? And he was like, I guess I've got a free Thursday.
Sure.
The music video is We Found Love by Rihanna, and it's detention themed. And they're all in pairs.
And my icon, the principal, is there.
Oh God,
I
this is
don't
that episode.
understand. I don't understand why you like the principal.
I think delivers lines in a way I
Yes.
find he's not a good principal.
No.
Okay, there we go.
He is a funny character.
Yeah, the actor does
Yes.
something really great with his lines. I agree.
I'm not saying he's good at his
Lesbians.
job, but I enjoy watching it. But no one on Glee is good at their job.
Tick and also talk. by rapper
I love him. Every time he comes on, I laugh. And I hate that they didn't show the kids of the Glee Project fangirling when he walked in, because you know that they did at least a little bit, and I would have loved to see it. He is like equal to Grant Gustin in the Glee world, and they didn't show it to us. And I would love to see
it. So in the homework and in the whatchamacallit, the actual video, they paired up. But in the homework, they paired themselves, and then they were force paired, I guess.
That sounds a little too aggressive.
I know. I didn't.
They were assigned.
Assigned. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for, and I just couldn't. Thank you. We just swapped roles again.
Blake got to pick both times. And he very smartly picked Allie, who's the best actress.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then Shanna was like, I'm stuck with Michael, who always gets critiqued at homework.
And I was like, she's not wrong, though.
No.
But then
she's not wrong.
But I was also like, she's the common denominator. And I'm like, okay, maybe there is something about her ability to convey chemistry that doesn't work, which I could kind of see.
And then Eileen and Lily, enemies to lovers.
Yeah. Also, so in the homework, like right before the homework, they were rehearsing, and they're saying how like Lily mouthed to Eileen, should we kiss? And they decided they were going to do that. But then they never made a big deal about it in the homework assignment. And Shanna and Michael did a quick little kiss. So like that kind of was an unnecessary thing. I thought they were going to make a big deal about it like they did last season when people kissed people.
They did not make a big deal out of anything like that in this season,
they
really.
Make a big deal about
Did they have a different editor this season?
Did they have a different producer?
I think also last season a lot of the kissing came down from like with Cameron, it was all non-consensual. Like he didn't want to do any of it. And there was no one who was like fully non-consensual kissing this season, and so it wasn't as much of a storyline.
Eileen kissed everybody. I'm like, good for you, girl.
And like, I liked how Eileen didn't have much angst about the fact that she was like kissing people who weren't Charlie. Like, I didn't miss that. But it was definitely a lot less of a plot point. And I think it was because like Cameron wasn't there, and he was the one who cared about the sanctity of kissing, which is fair, and they should have respected his values, as I've said before, but no one had values this season about it, so it was fine.
So those were the pairs during the homework. The assigned pairs, Blake got to choose, so he was not assigned. So it was Blake and Allie, and then Shanna
and Eileen,
and then Michael and Lily.
And so they have to like run off during detention and sing together. And then Michael and Lily have really good chemistry.
They did.
Yeah. And Michael did great in the studio. So that's what I was confused about, is that we saw him struggle and struggle and struggle on a lot of different things. And then all of a sudden he was good. He did improve, but I didn't see the progression. It was just all of a sudden he was doing good.
And that's why I think a lot of it was off camera.
Yes, that's what I was like. I don't understand why they keep keeping this kid. But yeah, I think there's something wrong with the content they chose.
And then Blake actually struggles with the harmonies in studio,
which is interesting to me. It sounded really bad. It was very cringy.
Yeah, it was bad.
I never realized how hard singing harmonies could be, but
I love harmonies.
I guess also like in studio it might be kind of weird.
Well, it's tough with harmonies because harmonies becomes the first time in this competition where they really have to sing very specifically on key.
Yes.
And with Blake, he's the type of singer where he was just like opening his mouth and he has a fine voice and he could just sing and it would be fine. And they could make it work. And when you look at harmonies, you need to be like, it's usually a third step above or whatever. And so he needs to be singing at a specific key and he just wasn't doing it. And this is the point of the competition where like when Blake got into the studio, it became to me like cringy.
It became kind of clear that like, okay, if he can't sing harmonies like and he's this bad, maybe he should really be considered getting the boot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even Nikki's like, that's something that's very important about this.
Yeah. They do harmonies on Glee all the time.
And there's a definite beauty to them, and I think it's very good that they tested them.
Mhm.
Then they tested them, and they were like, okay, Blake can't do them, we don't care. And it's like,
Yeah, we don't care.
Yeah.
that would have been a problem for someone else.
Yeah.
Literally
and
anyone
then-
else.
Yeah,
Would have been like,
literally
oh,
anyone
no,
else.
we can't have you.
And then they comment that Shanna and Eileen look like they're two girls at a swing dance class.
I loved that line. I was like, Zach, you're so funny and witty. But he was kind of right,
Zach
though.
is our crush. We want him on the Glee project.
But like,
He was,
kind
yeah.
of right.
They weren't doing a great job.
It was very, he said it was very choreographed, and I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see that. I also think, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but Shanna also struggles a bit in the studio this week too, right? This is kind of where I think, to me, what I see is there's internal stuff happening because she gets paired with Michael for homework and she's insecure about it. And then they both kind of get this negative feedback, and I think that screws with her head. And it just kind of like, it messes up her
This is
whole...
Shanna's like first struggle in the competition, and it doesn't go super well for her.
Yeah. So I think like this week, like she started off on a bad foot, and unfortunately it just kept happening.
Because the bottom three are Shanna, Eileen, and Blake.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she sings a killer cover of What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger.
Except she really butchered those lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one seemed to forget the lyrics. I was like, did you give them like 30 minutes instead of the normal 2 hours?
I know. It's
Yeah.
like, it says 2 hours, but I'm like, but did you give them 2 hours?
Yeah. This
Because
one,
this,
everyone forgot the lyrics this episode.
everyone forgot the lyrics this season, I feel like.
So many.
Yes.
And that did not
Yes.
happen last season. Like we had the Damien, I Wish I Was Jesse's Girl.
And that was funny.
Which
But,
was
like,
Yeah.
they were just cringy. Like, and like Shanna completely destroyed the lyric. I was like, she's just going with the lyrics. I'm so confused.
At least she was like switching verses. Like she
Yeah.
wasn't getting the lyrics. It was just like wasn't matching.
She sounded really good. And I thought Eileen was gonna go home this week. Because she's kind of been a bit inconsistent, but Shanna's been really consistent.
Yeah, and here's where the elimination process is really not not a great way to do things, because she's never performed in front of Ryan before because she's so consistent, and it gives her disadvantage.
Yes.
Same with
I think
Marissa
that happened.
last season.
Who was it?
Mhm.
Marissa
Yes.
did that like
Oh, yeah.
dope hate
I
on
remember that happening. Someone had never done it. They did it once. Boom, they were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shanna, this is when Shanna's like, I think Michael should have been in the bottom three. And they're like, well, at least she had the guts to say that.
I mean, I think she's right, but maybe not even in this week, because there is proof that he did better, that he actually had improved in this week.
Mm-hmm. And like she's saying, maybe overall, Michael has been in the bottom three, but this week he did better than she did. So I don't really think that judgment on her part is probably what's the word?
A little biased.
Yes.
I think
she's a bit biased here.
I mean, I agree, but I also disagree with her, because I think that he struggled so much, but there's something they were seeing in him. But Shanna, I think, was so good, and then she had an off week and they sent her home. So, like, I think it really comes down to not clarifying what their standards are and what they're really looking for every week.
Yeah.
I think that's my big problem.
And just that the elimination process just is not a fair.
And also,
it's arbitrary.
Michael to me was very comparable to Cameron from last season, who was someone who got sent home because even though he was talented, or I guess Cameron quit, but like he was on the verge of sending home, because even though he was talented, he didn't really have a story to him.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah, so Shanna is sent home, and I think it's pretty unfair.
Mhm.
And I think her not having been in the bottom 3 and being able to perform for Ryan is that kind of curse of like, you're good, but also like he hasn't had time to see you in this more vulnerable position and decide what character he wants to write for you. Because that's the thing is I think about pretty much anyone else before her, and you could see some sort of semblance of a character Ryan would write, but I have no idea where Shanna would have gone.
And I think that's part in the editing. I don't think they showed her to us a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's, yeah.
After her performance, Ryan says, "Who do you see yourself being in Glee?" And the answer she gives, I immediately was like, that's the wrong answer.
I agree.
She
Yeah.
said, "I see myself as being the athletic, like, popular girl." And I was like, you are not a Cheerio. What the hell are you thinking?
Just too nice to be.
Why would you say that?
Yeah, that was a bad answer.
It was really bad.
Because I think
should
had
have.
she gone out there and she said, like, I'm the country girl, he would have been like,
Yeah.
we don't have that. And she labeled herself as something that they already
It's almost
had.
as if she came into the show not even having an idea of who she was going to be.
Yeah.
Or that she knew they wanted country, but she didn't want to be country.
Yeah.
I kind of got that feeling from her, even though I feel like she could have been very right for that stereotype that they wanted, but she just didn't want to do it.
So next is actability. They're finally like, let's see if these kids can act.
Penultimate episode.
Like,
Their guest is Diana Agron, who I think is a good choice because she is one of the best actresses on the show.
And she still acts, even though her, all the stuff that they write her for her makes no sense. She still acts it really well.
Right. Yeah, no, she's the best actor on that show because they give her some crazy shit. And she does it fantastic.
They do Addicted to Love, and they're each given a different emotion to act.
That was kind of a fun exercise.
Yeah.
This was the first time we actually see them like do an exercise.
Yeah. I was like, why weren't they doing this from day one? Like, yeah. But also this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Blake's, his good acting is anger. And that's what they gave him on the card.
Yep.
that's all he ever gets. It's all he's ever gotten is anger. Anger and like general like happy smiles.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two easiest emotions to act. Anyone can smile, anyone can be mad.
Yeah. Michael wins the homework assignment because he has a great determined face.
Mm-hmm. He literally looks, I don't even know how to describe it.
He
like,
looked constipated to me. He looked like he was really trying to get over a long period of constipation.
I think his first face that happened, he was just like, it looked like he was like, aw, fuck yeah. And then it was just like weird.
Well, he had to like sing the longest also.
That's
in
true.
that one, and I didn't realize that they were gonna like continue singing in that style
Mm-hmm.
the whole song. Like I didn't realize that's what the exercise was. So
And then we get
The weirdest. Thank you. I'm so glad you agree.
the weirdest music video
But
of
not
all.
music video. It's a movie trailer. It doesn't exist.
it's such a bad movie trailer.
It was
For a movie
so
called
bad.
Perfect, and they sing Pink's Perfect. They're given characters.
Which are basically versions of themselves.
Yeah, they don't even have different character names.
No,
It's
they're
what
just
they
just,
want
their
them to play on the
names.
show. That's the character they're given, I think, is like
Yeah.
what at that point they were envisioning them playing on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's their names. It's their real
I know.
names. If I was going to play a character, I would want to have a different name. Because I think it'd be easier to get into character.
Fair.
They.
I
This
was-
is
the thing that pissed me off the most, I think, was that Eric, the director, decided that the thing that he really needed to happen in the entire thing was for the word perfect to be in one of the lines so that, like, oh, that's the title of the movie. Not movie. And I was like, really?
They also didn't write lines for them. They were asking
No,
for
it's
and then they were
improv.
upset that Lily, in doing improv, didn't get to the line that they wanted.
Well,
Which is like, that's a whole different skill than what you're asking for.
yes.
Yeah.
I agree. But I also do think they're kind of right that, like, I think they could have been able to get to the line. They eventually did, obviously. But I think their problem was that Lily is sort of starting way too early. But they're not clear enough with her feedback. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
Is they say, get to this line, but they don't tell her where to start. And
Exactly.
so, like, that's my
anyone in
big
improv
problem.
starts with the like hi hello. That's like
Yes.
the thing they have to beat out of you in your first few improv classes, and these kids haven't been doing that.
Exactly. So that's why I think, like, they didn't give her clear enough feedback, and they're making it seem that, like, oh, well, this is just Lily's show because, you know, she's sort of having a very emotional moment with, you know, the character she's given, which is the person who was driving the car during the accident, which Ally's character was hurt and disabled. But that's the thing, is the problem with the line is that, well, she's the protagonist of that scene then, because they want her to convey this, like, to convince her that, like, hey, like, this is my fault. Like, they need her to have that moment. So yeah, it's her show in this moment. So, like, how do you force Ally in there? Like, it just didn't make sense. They were trying, not villainizing Lily, but basically making it be like, oh, well, Lily just didn't do it right. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's a valid struggle. Like,
The show also never gets into how Ally might feel about this storyline that they forced her into in this.
Yeah,
her
I was
face.
very.
Her face when she was like, they were like, you're gonna be poor Diana Agron had to deliver this news to her.
Yeah.
Again, with just great skill, had to be like, you were this athlete who was gonna go places, and then you were injured in a car accident and disabled. And Ally's like, oh, and like she kind of like squints a little bit, and she's just kind of like taking it in, like, but we never understand where she comes from. But I was like, I see a look there, and I want to hear all of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's been disabled since she was, what, 2? And they want her to act as an Olympic athlete who lost that ability.
And it also, to me, the way that they cast these kids in this fake music video gets into why someone like Blake shouldn't be allowed on this show. Because Ally and Eileen are automatically forced into storylines that are very stereotypical and very basic, and that honestly also probably wouldn't exist as lead storylines in a film.
Mm-hmm.
And Blake gets to play this kind of universal thing.
Yeah.
Michael, both of them.
So does Michael. Yeah. And it's just like, it sucks because it's basically saying, like, here are the roles you guys are going to get to play. And they're super stereotypical and they're kind of lame.
And Lily was very ambiguous.
Eileen's role was basically herself.
But she gets pregnant.
Yeah, as if she were to get pregnant by the jock.
And
assuming that her family is much more, what's the word?
Conservative.
Yeah.
Eileen getting pregnant by the jock storyline, fine. That's like what happens in high school. But then what they do with it in this video
is force her to enact something that's probably painful.
And that she says is painful, and that we don't really delve into as being painful.
We do. Eric is like, but this is the pain you have to use. It's going to help you for camera. And I'm like,
just a stereotype.
Yeah.
Just the stereotype that first people think of when they think of a Muslim.
Yeah.
She actually puts on the traditional head covering,
and she starts crying.
You can tell it's very, very emotional for her.
Which, it's so complicated because for Eileen, it's maybe something that represents something she doesn't subscribe to. But then if you think about what's going on in France, where they're like outlawing it,
Mhm.
And like it's because Western people are saying, "Oh, this is oppressive," but we're telling Muslim women how to feel.
Mhm.
But-
Like
In that music video, they were saying this is an oppressive thing that her parents are forcing her to do after she gets pregnant.
yeah.
Mhm.
It was
So
a choice.
it's just they're playing into like negative Islamic stereotypes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They were being way too heavy-handed. There's no nuance
Mhm.
at all in this.
Yeah. And it's hard to have nuance in a music video, but they clearly put they took their first thought
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the video.
They
And
literally-
This
This could have been immensely better if it was just, Eileen, you're basically going to be like Quinn. You find out that you get pregnant, and fuck, that's intense. And then it also turns out that, your boyfriend starts to verbally abuse you, and then you find solace in his but the Allie and Lily thing just doesn't make sense. They only connect it, but it's like, oh yeah, Michael and Allie, they're siblings. And I'm like,
No, I was watching the trailer as one might watch a movie trailer. In the movie is shit.
It made me want to watch the movie just because I enjoy
it's like
watching
a 5
shitty
feet
movies.
apart type film.
Yeah.
yeah, it just, I mean, that's the thing, is that like they didn't need to add the context about her religion. It could have literally been like,
It could
she
have been
gets
that
pregnant,
storyline without the head.
and her parents decide,
Mhm.
no, we're going to move away from this school because you have bad influences. Boom.
Yep.
There you go. Like,
Well, and like it was such a terrible storyline, and you don't even get it from the trailer. Like if we didn't know any of that, we would have never figured it out from watching the trailer. It was just like bad all around.
It also just frustrates me because to me that movie trailer is really emblematic of what each person could come to expect if they were on Glee. And if I were Eileen or Allie, I would want to be on Glee less. That would make me want.
maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's how Blake won, because they were like, no, we're better than this.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm honestly fair, but like that when you get this late in the competition is when they really start prescribing what they want these people to be. And with Allie, it does change in the next week, or like even it's the end of this episode when they have the writers come.
Yeah.
But with Eileen specifically, they start telling her at this point, like, this is what you would be if you were on Glee.
And then they have the absolute gall to say, are you like, will you be okay to take all of this backlash? I was
That was weird.
fucking pissed.
And the fact that they kept on being like, Eileen's not strong enough to take all the backlash she's gonna get.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I'm
you.
like, this is not your decision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what are you?
And that's a
what
dumb
are you
excuse
saying?
not to cast her.
Yeah.
Like, they're just looking for excuses not to cast her at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Yeah.
like a
Easier to
really,
write for someone else.
it's a problematic reason. It's literally like, oh well, we're saving you
yeah,
from the
it's
horrible people in the world.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that
Ridiculous.
frustrated me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the episode with Cullen?
Yeah, this is where the writers come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had issues
Yeah.
with that.
Scarlet Fever, partially deaf. That guy comes in for the first time.
So everyone has to perform for the writers. Ian Brennan says he's most excited by Blake, Michael, and Lily. Odd choice.
Right.
And
Yeah, there is no bottom three this time. They all do last
Yeah.
chance performances.
Michael sings Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Lily Mae sings Son of a Preacher Man. Allie sings Here's to Us. Blake sings I'm Still Standing while not in a wheelchair, which is against
I
Glee's.
know. I was like, if they had given that to Allie, I would have shit myself. Oh.
And Eileen sings Fighter by Christina Aguilera.
I liked Eileen and Lily's performances the best.
I agree.
I loved Lily's performance. I think all of her last year performances are fun.
I think Lily going home solely rested on Ian hearing that she might not take constructive criticism because he went, and I was like, oh, there goes Lily. There goes her champ. He said no.
My thing with bringing the writers on is that it was kind of sucky to them to put their thought process out there in front of us. But it was also just like sucky to the contestants because they didn't really get the chance to know them. And they're trying to create these characters for them. And it's like when you don't get the chance to know someone, like it kind of makes sense that you would first go to that stereotypical thing. And the writing process is that like you can start there and then you go forward. And these people probably deliberated for like 20 minutes. And so they started with the stereotypical thing and then they stuck there.
Yep.
And that sucks. And this is a place where they come up with something kind of interesting for Allie because
they want to see her as the bitchy, promiscuous girl.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
Interesting combination of tropes.
Yeah, but to see Allie at least as something sort of different than like what that music video painted her as. And I think we can talk about this and when we talk about the next episode, that she takes that direction super well.
Mm-hmm. She does. And I don't know. Okay, so this is just my personal feelings, okay? For some reason, I just was like not 100% behind Allie. I don't know what it was. And then when the writer said that he sees her as like the bitchy promiscuous girl, I think that's actually what I also was seeing. There's something pointy about Allie. That's the best word that I can use to describe it.
Like there's a sharpness to her that she doesn't always show.
Yes, exactly. So I actually think that she would have been really, really good in that role.
I didn't hate that assignment to her at all. Like, I think that would be super interesting and fun. And, like, it wasn't a stereotypical thing for them to say, which was, like, a low bar to set. But I'm like, ooh, saying not the first thing one would think of? We stand. But yeah, I didn't hate that. But then just like, I don't know, and was this the episode or was it the next episode where Ryan was like, do we have a duty to pick a candidate who is representing something at the show?
The finale.
No, this episode, they're like, do we go with a star or with someone who's a less obvious choice? And the writers say, I think we have to go with a star.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we have to go with a star. And I was like, but that's not what this show is.
No.
Also, like, anyone can become a star. Like, you didn't pick Alex last season, and he's the biggest star out of those four. Like, you make someone a star based on the storyline you give them, not just based on their attitude.
And what they do with it. Like,
I also consider a star being someone who stands out and is memorable and different. And I don't think that Blake is that. And they kept on talking about him being a star. And they talked about it this episode too. And maybe it just doesn't translate on camera versus in person. But like, I don't find him to be a star. I don't remember him.
All right. Michael and Lily are sent home. Which makes sense. I didn't think Michael was the right person to win. And
I
liked him, but like he's definitely doesn't have. He's not Glee. He just isn't.
He's not the show.
I was sad Lily didn't make it to the finale. I wasn't necessarily super surprised, but like there wasn't a prescribed number of people to be in the finale. So like,
yeah, because last season there were 4 people in the finale, but this season they decided to go with 3. I think they probably just wanted to streamline it.
Yeah.
And this season they kept being like, Ryan is only going to pick one of you.
They
and I feel like
Ryan
got a note. They're like, we can't write for this many contenders.
I think it was also like the producers of the reality show were like, Ryan, you cut our drama by having everyone win.
Yes, exactly. I think it was that. Yeah.
So then the finale is Blake, Allie, and Eileen. Their music. They have homework. They have to sing We Got the Beat. Or no, You Can't Stop the Beat.
Yeah.
With all the contenders come back. They sing Can't Stop the Beat.
Chris Colfer's there.
Chris Colfer's there. Allie wins. Or no, they all win homework.
Yeah.
And then
bullshit.
And then their music video is Tonight Tonight by Hot Shell Ray. Eileen is once again cast as a Turkish Muslim girl sneaking out to prom, though she does an iconic hair flip. I was like, that girl is lip syncing while doing that hair flip. Like, good for her.
And they never made her play depressed in this episode, I think, because it was just like supposed to be fun, but like she was allowed to just like have fun, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Blake is the popular but humble prom king, whatever. Allie is like the mean girl, and she's like flirting with all the boys.
I love
that. She does so good.
Yeah, I think like the mentors are talking like off on the side while watching. They're like, Allie, she'll get a note and she does it and she hits it out of the park. And literally then we see it in action where Erica is, hey, that was good. Just play a bit more to camera. And she's like, okay, perfect. Yes, sir. I can do that. She turns around, does it. And I'm like, this girl, she has got some stuff.
In this episode also, Eileen is being asked to play a certain type of version of her. Blake is being asked to play exactly him. And Allie is the one who gets a note that's pretty much the opposite of who she is. And she fully adapts to it, and she adapts to it in her final performance as well. And to me, that's like the signal that she should win, because she suddenly showed this like ability to create a character very quickly based on notes. And I thought it was really successful.
And then they randomly bring in Damien. That's what I got like, a note. I was like, why?
Whom I love, and who's a little baby bean with a little Irish bean accent.
Who is great in Celtic Thunder. Like, he kind of was like,
and I love that they treat him as a rock star.
And so Damien is there randomly. Everyone's there. There's balloons. It's like a fun music video.
It's fine.
And then it's the finale, like the final last chance performance.
They bring the writing team. They bring past contestants.
Some of the judges. Some of
like the cast members from Glee. It's a party.
Lots of people.
I always love that. I'm like so easily got by the finale of reality TV shows, but anytime when there's like a lot of people clapping or there's confetti, like I cry every time. And I'm not going to say I didn't cry when they stood and clapped for some people's performances, because I love it and it makes me happy. And I was just so happy to see all of them there enjoying it. I love seeing everyone come back.
Allie sings Popular from Wicked. She's great.
Yeah, that was a great performance on her part.
She did, and that to me is just like, she's the only one who in that final performance took a note of like, this is who I think they want me to be, and that's who I'm gonna be.
And she says that, she's like, I think I'm bringing a new character for you to try. And then what I also thought was really interesting about after her performance was that she literally says, thank you so much for this opportunity. Like, she seems very grateful. Just professional all around.
Yeah, and I thought she did so good. And I think, like, it was so obvious when Ryan talked to them all after, like, I don't know how they edited it, but, like, it seemed like most people were Team Allie. I would have been Team Allie. I am Team Allie. Like, I just thought she did such a great final performance and really showed different sides to her that they could pick from.
Blake sings I'll Be by Edwin McCain. Basic song. He gives the shittiest poem. Okay.
It tells nothing about him.
He's like, I want to show you my poetic side. I guess we learned he was half Cuban.
That I learned that. That's it.
So, as someone who's written lyrics and had to rhyme things, I was like, he's going with all the most basic ass, cheesy rhymes. Like, this is the only reason this poem comes off as charming is because he's cute.
Yeah.
And literally the poem was like I'm mysterious, and there's stuff about me that like is mysterious. And I was like,
even the
Was
writers
it the
were like,
last?
oh my god, that poem made us like realize there are other things to him. I'm like, no, it didn't.
oh my god, he's just hot. That's
He
all
wrote
there
it on
is.
a napkin, probably.
I don't understand why the writers thought it was a good poem.
Yeah, that one writer was like, we saw a star being born.
Oh my god! I
No,
wanted
we
to-
saw a boy become a man.
and then
That's
say
what a
star
line
born.
was?
To
No,
me,
it was that. Then a star was born,
Yeah.
and I was like, a boy become a no. I don't think we saw that.
and to me, that was very equivalent to what Abraham did. I thought both he and Abraham came out there and essentially begged.
Yeah,
And his rhymed, and Abraham's doesn't. And he was a conventionally attractive, white passing straight boy.
And what was the last line? I'm the man you couldn't see, and that man is me.
So dumb.
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, and I hate it.
It was just not, it wasn't a very good poem. It would not pass in any creative writing contest
Yeah.
or class even.
Yeah, my professor would roast that.
He's not a very good poet. I think that he only wrote poetry because it's supposed to be vulnerable.
Yes,
And
I thought that too.
It worked, obviously, but I think it was a lie.
Why? Yeah, like he literally could have done a literally just like, this is kind of like what Allie did, where she was like, hey, this is the character that I think you should bring. He could have done something like that and it would have been more authentic, but this just seemed like bullcrap.
It was very performative to me.
Yeah.
And I know it's a performance. They're on a show, they're doing a performance, but for him to do this like performative thing and then be like, and it's genuine, was bullshit.
So Eileen sings Rolling in the Deep. Most all the guests are Team Allie. Like Diana points out, she can bring something Kevin can't.
Mm-hmm.
Amber is Team Eileen. Charlie speaks up for Eileen,
Oh my
and
God.
it's so
His
cringe.
face when they're going to him before he speaks up for Eileen is like, oh, he looks like a Charlie Brown character. He's so depressed and stressed about the fact that
Like-
no one's talking about her.
He, like, you
Yeah.
can tell, it's like, oh God, he's gonna say something. Because, like, Ryan's like, okay, like, cast and writers, what do you think? And then Charlie's like, but what about Eileen? And I was like,
To be fair, the minute that he talked about her, he like opened the sluice gates, and then other people started talking about
I
her
love
too,
that he
and how
spoke
good
up.
she was.
I just like to make fun of his face and
Yeah.
attitude before
it
it.
was like the way he did it was like, oh God, this is so cringe. But he
Yeah.
said a lot of valid things, being like,
He
you
did.
have an opportunity to do something really cool and interesting and something that's really important. But I think it was just because Charlie's delivery is just like, oh boy, this kid is just something else.
Yeah, he's like to heal bridges burned by 9/11.
Yeah, I was like, oh God, a 9/11 reference. Shit.
Got real.
Most everyone is Team Allie, except the writers are Team Blake.
Which I did not understand. He is the
Okay,
least
the
interesting
woman
person to write.
specifically
Yes. I was like,
was Team Blake.
what did I want to know? What did she see in him that made her want to write for him?
I just wonder if it's something that doesn't
In?
translate on camera. Or
That-
something.
Maybe.
It's something
Because
that
he's not even like insanely attractive. Like he's no Zach Efron, if you will. But he's
Well, here's the thing: when you're a writer,
Go
you
back to your rating scale.
that's my bar.
do you think it's because as a writer, when you have Eileen and Allie, like they both already have stories. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be inspiration, but I almost feel like that can be intimidating. And when you're
Yeah.
a writer, you want a blank slate, and he is the blankest slate that you could possibly get.
That's a really
I
good
feel like
point.
they wanted a young Finn. I feel like
Yeah.
they went into it and they were like, what's the easiest way to redo this? And to have these people
Right.
graduate,
They
let's
need
get a
the
young Finn.
formula. They need the
And
formula.
They even reference that he has the dopey quality of a Finn.
Exactly. And they
it's
could have
true.
gone out and cast that person, but if that person's standing right in front of you, it's like, why not go for that easy route?
Why not cast that person separately and use this show to find someone interesting who needs?
That's what I'm saying.
Whose
That's why I'm
population
like,
needs representation.
and they literally could have cast Blake. That's what pisses me off the most.
They
is that
literally could have
Blake
been like,
was an
oh, you know
actor
what?
living in LA who
We're
would
gonna
audition for it.
bypass Glee Project. We're just gonna send you full on to the performance. We're gonna cast someone else.
Exactly.
I like what you said, Alyssa, about it being intimidating. I wonder if like they're intimidated by these people having like real issues and real things behind them.
Oh yeah.
that they would have to
Honestly,
confront.
I think Eileen would have been the best choice for the show if they knew how to handle it correctly.
Yep.
But I don't think that Glee has the chops to do that. And I think that's why they didn't cast her, because
Yeah.
And I
it
think
would have fucked up some
And they can't
really
put that on
deep
the,
shit.
the reality TV show. They can't admit to that.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar
um,
with Allie in that like
Yep.
they already kind of fucked up by casting
Mhm.
someone who could walk as Artie. And
Yeah.
And his story is all about he wants to be able to walk. He wants to be able to dance.
and they do all these videos where he dances because Kevin McHale is a good dancer, but like maybe they should have cast Kevin McHale as an able-bodied person.
and they
And
could have used Artie to actually
Yeah.
talk about, okay, well, you know,
But once you
what
do
are his
that,
real goals, and yeah,
once you do
Mhm.
that, how do you put Allie next to him? Like it just
It's almost like if they had cast what either Eileen or Allie, they would have had to admit that they have made mistakes.
with
Mhm.
Eileen they would have
And-
made mistakes that they would have had
Yeah.
to cop to, and with Allie they would have
Mhm.
had to admit that they already did.
Yeah. So I
So
think
this
they
comes
just
down to
Glee's not courageous enough to take
they're
responsibility.
not equipped. Like their writing team
Mhm.
is just not equipped,
Mhm.
and I think that becomes very very clear. That's really interesting. I didn't even really think about that.
And it sucks because it's the biggest letdown when Ryan's like, and the winner is Blake.
And
I was so disappointed.
And he says it like it's disappointing. Like it's just a disappointing outcome.
I think
Mhm.
it's also kind of shitty that they basically play up probably the second half of this season being like, oh, like we have some really interesting opportunities with these people of color and people of different abilities. And then it actually, I think, does come down to the fact that like they actually aren't equipped to handle them properly. So they're kind of just using that excuse to help us think they're like, oh yeah, Glee is super great in all these ways,
Mhm.
but it's really flawed in the same ways that they think it's great.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't think Glee could actually write to an Allie, an Eileen, a Tyler, a Mario. Like I just don't think that they could without bringing like a new person into the writer staff who could actively represent those perspectives.
Yeah.
And that's just not really something, honestly, that Ryan Murphy's ever showed that he's super interested in.
Yep.
And it's a real bummer because there's not a lot of representation on television in general. And to then have like one of the few shows that has a diverse cast objectively fully sideline and ignore those characters sucks.
So I think something that we should make note of to talk about in the first episode of season 4 is this representation issue and what people they decide to cast to fill different roles that have now moved on after graduation. I think we should probably have this conversation in that context of like, well, which ways did they end up going?
And that's the Glee Projects, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone.
Yeah.
It's a bummer of a show. I think it provides a lot of insight into Glee as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, singing competitions are fun, man. There should be more, but maybe less problematic and without Ryan Murphy, or with Ryan Murphy, but he's like admitting to be an asshole, like he's a Simon Cowell type. And we don't necessarily have to like him.
I still want this version, like a spin-off of Glee with Jonathan Groff as the head of Vocal Adrenaline, tackling all of these issues, but way better than the original Glee.
So that was the Glee Project season 2. Thank you for tagging along for this megasode. Thank you, Julia, for being our guest host / expert on the Glee Project.
If only there were season 3. Rip in peace.
I'm so glad there's not. I'm so glad there's not.
But here's what I have to say, and I'll say it before. I've said it before. Why would you want to watch Glee when you could watch a reality show based on Glee in which the people are like 50% less talented and the music videos are like 75% worse and there's no storyline? I'd rather watch that.
Your logic is
Flawless.
questionable.
All right. So tune in next time. We're going to take a bit of a hiatus, but we'll probably be back in like late May with new episodes. And we'll be tackling season 4, the Lost Seasons. So tune in.
You get another Britney episode soon.
Oh, another Brit. Yep, there is another Britney episode.
Oh boy, and we get to talk about it in the context of Free Britney.
Timely.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Oh.
All right, then. I have no idea what's going on. We will find out.
Bye.
Bye.